Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. You will call to order this meeting of the Board of County Commissioners for August 2nd, 2022. This morning, we'll have our invocation offered by Commissioner Dave Eggers, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Pat Gerard. Please rise.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we gather here to lift up our prayers to you for this state, county, and this wonderful country, this United States of America. We thank you for the many blessings you have bestowed on her and each one of us. Give us strength of conviction and purpose as we strive together to continue making her the land of greatness and a beacon of opportunity. We especially pray for the many who are suffering hunger, lost jobs, poor physical and mental health, from untimely deaths in their families, or for those just having a tough time making ends meet. Be with those who are hurting and touch our hearts so that we might help those in need. This morning we are especially grateful for all who protect this country and our freedoms and who are serving in harm's way around the world. Please be with each member of our armed forces, especially those who have suffered injury in battle and those who continue battling the scars long after their service is over. This morning we honor our Purple Heart recipients. Be with each person and with their families. We are so proud of each and every one. During national calamities, public servants everywhere have answered the call to prepare us and to repair us when needed. Every day and night, our first responders and police have answered the call from our 911 operators to protect and to save us when needed. We sleep well at night knowing that these men and women are here to serve. Be with us this morning as we do the people's work. May we listen, deliberate, and do what is right for our residents. We ask all of this in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Amen. That was a good one.
All right, we have one proclamation. I'll come down for that. Good morning again. As you heard in our prayer this morning, it's a very special morning for us in Pinellas County today as we honor our Purple Heart recipients with a proclamation. I'd like to invite Eric Nestler, the 16th District Vice Commander of the American Legion Post 238, Miss Andrea Albert, Executive Board Member, Mr. Robert Waslick, Chaplain, Post 158, Treasure Island, Mr. David Klinger, Adjutant Member, Post 238, Mr. Mal Klingen, Executive Board Member and Chaplain of the American Legion Riders, Post 275, Dunedin, and all the Purple Heart recipients and American Legion members who are present to join us up at the podium today. Feel free, please join us up here. The Purple Heart is the oldest military decoration still in present use and was initially created by George Washington in 1782 as the badge of military merit. The Purple Heart was the first American Service Award made available to the common soldier and is awarded to any member of the U.S. Armed Forces wounded or killed in combat with the declared enemy of the U.S. The mission of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, chartered by an act of Congress, is to foster an environment of goodwill towards the combat wounded veteran members and their families, to promote patriotism, to support related legislative initiatives, and most importantly, to make sure we never forget the sacrifices made by those so decorated. There have been many Pinellas County residents who have made that ultimate sacrifice in giving their lives in the cause of freedom, and there are countless combat wounded veterans who currently reside in our county. As Purple Heart awardees contribute to the communities in countless ways. Therefore, be it proclaimed by the Pinellas County Board of County Commissioners that August 2nd be recognized as Purple Heart Day in Pinellas County. Right, if you'd like to say a few words. Sure.
Thank you, County Commission. Thank you, everybody that's here for supporting us. Pinellas County first proclaimed themselves as a Purple Heart City in 2017 and was recognized as such by the Military Order of the Purple Heart. The Purple Heart designation is one of the most prestigious honors a county can receive. The county is committed to remembering the acts of brave men and women who either died or were wounded in action by proclaiming the county to be a Purple Heart County. Purple Heart Day on August the 7th is the day created to give back. It's a day for Americans to remember and honor the men and women who bravely represented their country and were wounded or killed while serving. Please pause on August the 7th to remember those brave men and women who were awarded the Purple Heart Medal, and pray for those families who received that medal because their son or daughter never came home.
I just want to say that it was an honor to serve and protect this country. I would do it again if I had to, even though at my age, they probably wouldn't let me. I want to thank my Legionnaire brothers and sisters for all they've done for my post and for my life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm honored and humbled to be here today as a Purple Heart recipient. Again, like the chaplain said, it's a calling. I would definitely go back if called upon. The Purple Heart is not something that you strive to receive. It's something that happens. And when it happens, it makes you realize once that day is through that you're here for a purpose. And, you know, God's will, I'm here, and I'm here to serve a purpose, whether I'm in uniform or not. So thank you.
Sorry. I got to do it anyway. Hi, I'm Dave Klinger, and I've heard all the jokes about Corporal Klinger and MASH. I have to echo what my fellow soldier said. This is not a recognition. We humbly acknowledge it, but it's not something that I'm almost embarrassed that I got wounded in Vietnam, to be honest with you. Not something you intentionally do. It happened, and we survived. And as she said, and I echo that, is God's will had a purpose for me, and we're here today to celebrate that we're still living. Thank you.
Well, good morning again for everybody. The Marine Corps definition of receiving a Purple Heart is we zigged when we should have zagged. That's right. We're here to serve, and we follow the folks behind us. We have great leadership here in our county and in our cities, and let's respect that because these folks really give of themselves, and the county gives its recognition to organizations such as the Military Order of the Purple Heart, for which we thank.
We're going to do a photo.
All right, I count to three. 1, 2, and hold on 1 second. I'll do one more. And 1, 2, and great, perfect. Thank you.
Hey, guys, can we take one picture with the commissioners behind you?
Sure,
Would you
absolutely.
mind? Thank you.
Anything to make us look better.
Hardly.
No, you make us look good. Wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here.
Scooch in. Okay, come on. Scooch in. Oh. I'm so used to do this all the time. I don't know why we don't do it anymore. You in? Oh, yeah. Oh, come on down some more, babe. Oh, no. No, you guys are great. We're high.
And it's just one
We're
more
tall.
step, both of you.
Me?
Yeah, to your left.
I shouldn't have done that.
take 2 photos on 1, 2, and I'll do 1 more. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we used to do that all the time. Because everybody's confirmation, we all so all of a sudden we stopped doing that. We got off sync when we had COVID and we went. Oh, that's okay. Good to see you. Oh gosh, it was so fun. How are you? Still am.
It's good to see you.
Experience of a
How
lifetime.
you doing? You as well, you as well. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad I didn't miss you.
Thank you for your service.
Good to see you.
We do, we meet again.
Yes, it was a trip of a lifetime. Girl, you're gonna have to just give us some highlights. You saw it all. I mean, I don't even know what to say except that it was just phenomenal. Probably will go back. Okay. And then we go to the British Isles in 2 weeks. We're gonna golf in Scotland because it's my husband's birthday.
Again, thank you all for being with us this morning. We greatly appreciate it.
It was supposed to be last year. I remember you mentioned it. It was rescheduled, so it was paid for 2 years ago. And I finally got to do it.
We'll move into our public hearings. Item number 2, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Agenda item number 2 is a proposed ordinance amending Chapter 42 of the Pinellas County Code adopting a tenant's bill of rights requiring the provision of information renters' rights under federal, state, and local law, prohibiting discrimination based on source of income, requiring notice of late fees, and requiring notice of rent increases. The public hearing was properly advertised. An affidavit of publication has been received for filing. 16 emails in support and 30 emails in opposition have been received by the clerk. The matter is properly before the board to be heard.
Thank you. Mr. Administrator.
Good morning, Commissioners. And I'll ask Evan to come on up, and we have a brief presentation. So last we talked about this item, there were several comments from both the Apartment Association and also from residents. There were some other provisions, and most notably asked that we coordinate with both what Tampa's looking at and the city of St. Petersburg. They've done that, and so they have a short presentation updating you on the draft changes. Go ahead, Evan.
Excellent. Evan Johnson, Planning Division Manager at Housing Community Development, and I'm just going to walk you through a couple slides to start, and then Carol Strickland is going to walk you through some of the detail of the changes that have been made. Oops. There we go. At the June 21st hearing, the board asked us to follow up on several items, which included looking at the consistency with the St. Petersburg adopted ordinance, between that and the proposed ordinance for Pinellas County, the insurance impact, whether that be in costs or just availability of insurance as it relates to housing choice vouchers, clarification of the income standard, so, try to make the language a little bit more understandable and palatable. And then finally, ongoing communication with our municipal partners. So on July 8th, Administrator Burton did make a presentation to the City Managers Consortium. And based on that comment, as well as just additional follow-up that we've had with some of our municipal partners, the consensus is that the countywide ordinance is the preferred way to go, as opposed to adopting locally at each one of the municipalities. The proposed ordinance, just want to point out, you have a marked up version in your packet, but the proposed ordinance includes 3 areas where we've made changes. First, definitions. As we mentioned at the last hearing, there was a switch between the use of the word person and landlord. The definitions have been updated to reflect that. The other addition to the definitions had to do with the notice of rent increase. That is actually defined as a specific notice in the definitions. The clarified language, as I mentioned before, in the income standard. And then finally, the whole new provision, which relates to the notice of rent increase as well. And then finally, Carol is going to go into more detail when she talks about the specific pieces of the ordinance. But from a consistency with St. Petersburg standpoint, and you have an attachment 3 that was included in your packet that had a comparison detailed comparison between the different provisions of the county's proposed ordinance and St. Pete's. There are still the 3 areas where we have some substantive differences. That would include the income standard, the inspection period for housing choice and HUD inspections, and then finally the insurance provisions as well. One more item, we have added the provision as it relates to the notice of rent increases. St. Pete also has a version of that they are moving forward with. We have the same language in our ordinance as well, but Carol will get into a little bit more detail with that. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to her so she can walk through the changes, and we'll be here for questions, of course.
So I would just like to, good morning, Carol Strickland, Housing and Community Development Director. I would like to just briefly go over the changes that we've made to the ordinance. First, as Evan mentioned, we did add the notice.
Carol didn't advance. Were you trying to advance the slide?
Okay. Thank you. The notice of rent increase is a new provision. This would apply to any rent increases over 5%. And there's a tiered period of notification. For yearly leases, that would be a 60-day notice. For the leases that are less than 3 months, or more than 3 months but less than a year, 30 days. And then the month-to-month term would currently be proposed at 15 days. Since the ordinance was drafted, we did learn that the city of St. Petersburg has modified their proposal that's still under review, but they are looking at a 21-day notice for those month-to-month leases. So that could be something the board would want to entertain to maintain consistency with their proposal. Insurance impacts was another area that we looked at. We did follow up, as the board had requested, with the Office of Insurance Regulation and the Bay Area Apartment Association. Essentially, we are not recommending any change to the language. While we recognize that there is a practice that exists in the insurance industry related to restriction of voucher clients, we feel that we don't know the extent of that practice, and it really is contrary to the intent of this ordinance for income anti-discrimination. We also recognize that it would be difficult to enforce. However, as we move forward in accordance with our conversations with the City of St. Petersburg, it's something we want to continue to look at, and if that area is problematic in the implementation of the ordinance, that would be something that we would consider bringing back to the board. Next area of concern was income standards. We did make some changes here based upon the conversation and direction from the board on June 21st. We are not recommending adoption of the St. Petersburg language, which does which bases the income standard based on the entire amount of the rent. The way that the Pinellas County ordinance is drafted is the income standard is based only upon the amount of the rent that the tenant is able to pay where they are receiving public assistance. To require that a tenant have an income that's equal to 2.5 to 3 times their monthly rent really would exclude tenants from being able to access rentals and would be contrary to the intent of the ordinance. We did make that language clearer, as well as included some language from the St. Petersburg ordinance that makes it clear that this ordinance doesn't require landlords to provide any other exceptions and normal provisions in leases, such as requirements for down payments, requirements for rental insurance, requirements for utilities. Those would still apply. It doesn't carve out any exceptions except when a tenant seeks to qualify for a rental, they can only be judged upon the amount that they're able to pay and not the entire amount of the rent.
Commissioner Eggers.
I'm sorry, I've heard that now like 10 times, and I'm still not sure what that means. So
Yeah.
could you please walk through an example on that, because I'm just lost.
I do have some slides at the end if we still want some clarification, but I'll do my best to kind of paint a picture. The industry practice for all tenants is that in order to qualify for a lease, you have to have an income that is 2.5, 3 times the rent. So in order to be able to demonstrate that you can afford to live in that apartment, that standard varies, but 2.5, or 3 times the rent. For a voucher client, this ordinance would only require that standard be applied to the money that the tenant is bringing to the table from whatever lawful source of income they have. The amount of the voucher is not considered in that income standard. So
if it was $1,000 and they received a $500 voucher, it would be 2.5 times the $500, not 2.5 times the 1,000. Is that correct?
yes, sir.
Because the voucher is guaranteed.
So they have to accept the $500 and that's it?
No, they get the.
So the tenant would qualify if their income was 3 times the amount that they actually paid, not 3 times the full rent amount,
If they have a voucher.
if they have a voucher.
Okay.
But the effect of requiring the tenant to have an income 3 times the actual rent essentially disqualifies
Right.
low-income tenants from being able to access those leases. So the fact that they have a voucher that's a guaranteed rent payment shouldn't factor into that income qualification, that you're really only looking at what the tenant's required to pay.
But, what had been brought up before was concerns about, other cost of living in the apartment, that they didn't have the income for that. So how do we address that?
But you have, so all the costs that you have to live outside of that voucher, you still have that cost, and they can consider that in the income. They're just saying, if you say you gotta have 3 times and Kara and I went over this repeatedly, because I was having the same questions. But if you have income that qualifies you to cover 3 times, well, why would the voucher be factored in? Because that is another source of income. So if you had that much income, you wouldn't need the voucher. So you still have to have, if you're required to have 2.5 times the or 3, let's just say 3 times the, if it was $1,000 rent and now it's $500 because you got a voucher, you'd still have to have another $1,500 to be able to cover all those other expenses. Because as you heard before, a lot of it is working parents, and so they have to, that gives them the
Their
income
daycare, they
to
have
cover
electricity, they have.
food, electricity, living, all the other expenses. So that still's in there. We're not in any way keeping a landlord from making sure they have sufficient income to be able to cover their cost.
Okay.
It's just that you don't have to have income on the voucher piece of that calculation.
Commissioner Long.
So is the issue, from the way I'm hearing it, is the issue maybe that the voucher is not enough?
Yes, that's one of the problems. Yeah.
What?
I was saying that's one of the problems.
Because, we're talking about affordable housing. And there's a lot of apartments that probably few of us in this room would be able to afford, right? So doesn't that say that the voucher isn't providing enough of a safety net?
Well, all we're saying is that it doesn't matter. If you're trying to overextend yourself and you've got a voucher, well, that same protection exists because it says you got to have income sufficient to cover all of the non-voucher portion of whatever that rent is. And so it still gives the landlord the protection of making sure that they don't have a tenant that can't cover all the cost. It's just saying that if you're getting $500 as a voucher, that shouldn't be included in the 3 times calculation in order to qualify someone.
Okay.
I have a.
Mr. Peters.
Thank you. Just for clarification. So if the standard was 3 times, and we're going to stay with $1,000 and it's 3 times, so then the standard would be that they would have to have $3,000 income, correct?
Without a voucher.
Without a voucher. But if we have a voucher, now you're taking the 500 out, and now you're saying they only have to have 3 times the 500, which would have been 3,000 as the standard, but now it's 1,500. So I think what they're saying is that 1,500 isn't going to be enough to cover the costs, is what they're saying. And I'm just want I don't like doing math this early in the morning, but so what we're doing is we've lowered that threshold, and I know the apartment folks are going to come and talk. But I'm getting, based on the emails we got and the phone calls that I got, that's where their concern is, that now that instead of it being the 3,000, it's the 1,500. That how are they going to be able to pay for the food or the electricity or other stuff? And is that going to be sufficient? And in fact, are we helping people with this ordinance that way because it isn't still going to help them be successful? So I know that was one of the big issues, and the insurance issue, and those are the two that I still need clarification on. That if they take so many vouchers, they're going to be dropped from their insurance. And I know we haven't gotten there yet, but those are the 2 things that were a big deal. And so I'm not sure what does that mean? I mean,
Mr. Johnson, do you want to?
Well, in the back of the presentation, there's a couple of examples of actual calculations that have been done for housing choice voucher tenants. So I could show you just one real quick,
Okay.
just to give you a sense.
Thank you. That would be helpful.
To your point, though, I think you did an excellent job of explaining it. So if we can go back and play the tape. So on this table here, and I'm glad to answer any question you have on this table, but really the key items on this table are, you have a family of 4, and this is 3 children and a single parent. You've got a gross income of about $46,000, so $45,760. And then you come down to essentially their maximum, the 30% of AMI, the maximum rent obligation based on the income calc is $1,100. That's the maximum they're going to put. And then essentially at that point, they have a range of rental costs that they can go look for in the market. And if they find one that works, then HUD's going to pay the rest. They're going to pay the 70% up to a certain level. So HUD is only going to pay so much for rent. But at the end of the day, if you work all of that out and you take the voucher into effect and the income that they're actually making, in this instance, you'll still have $2,700 left for various expenses. Now, this is somebody that is obviously a professional, got a job, making $46,000 a year. But the calculation and the way they work, the vouchers works for any one of the people who are voucher holders. So generally, I can go real quickly, the same thing. Another family of 4, and these are all real examples. Another family of 4, 3 children, 1 single parent on a fixed income, $14,400 a year. You go through all the calculations, and you're still going to have around $900 a month for other expenses. Now, let's keep in mind, when you're making $15,000 a year with 3 kids at home, you also have Medicaid, you also have food stamps, you have other benefits that are helping you with expenses. But there is still cash, approximately $900, give or take, that would be considered that you would have left for other expenses. And so that is the way that the housing authorities kind of walk through that calculation with their potential tenants before they get the voucher, and they go through all their income statements and all the dependents and everything else, and they come up with these calculations. And so that's basically how they show that there is money left over for expenses. And but obviously, the lower on the scale you're going to get, the more likely they're going to have other sources to cover some of those expenses. So again, the Medicaid and the food stamps being the most common.
Can I just ask you on
Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to do the math, on the voucher calculation, which do you subtract to get the remaining 4 expenses of the 876? Which one of these numbers do you take and then subtract?
So the remaining 4 expenses should be your total annual income minus your cost of rent.
Which is the rent
the
obligation?
Right.
So adjusted monthly income, the AMI, less 30% of AMI rent obligation?
That should work out, and if
It doesn't.
Which is,
I'll be glad to calculate
On
that.
either one.
But yes, generally it's the leftover after you pay your rent from your amount. And I have a feeling it's actually because it's the total annual income and not the adjusted income.
Okay, maybe that's what it is.
Because the adjusted income is just a deduction that HUD works into its calculation, so you get a deduction per dependent in this instance.
That must be the difference.
So that was excellent catch. I knew somebody would do the math.
Commissioner Flowers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, because I was coming up with 756, not 8.
Me
but-
too.
Yeah, and that was going to be one of the things I was doing. But I just want to share, first of all, thank you, Commissioner Peters, because I had sat here and did a calculation of someone at 1,800 times 3 months, which would have been 5,700, 60%. I did 60 instead of 30. But what I want to remind persons of is, unless I heard wrong, one of the concerns was that 3 times the amount really is for the deposit. And that first, last, and security that we talk about. And there were some concerns about the way that persons leave their property. Not everybody leaves their property in disarray. There are people who are not nice. And I shared that, and they don't leave it that way. But that deposit is for if something happens, goes on, or whatever. So even if our rental rates had not increased the way that they have because of other outside influences that we don't have control over, that person would be paying that normal rate. You know, we would have been paying normal rate for cost of living increase, not doubling the rent. So if rents were normally $1,800 now, because the market can weigh it, so now we're looking at $3,600. And that's where the rub is. Additionally, yes, part of the problem is that HUD has not increased its voucher rates to keep up with the cost that apartment rentals actually are.
Right.
That's not something we're going to be able to change. We can lobby for it. I mean, I know I've made calls saying, hey, we've got to look at this on a national level, not just on a local level, because it's a huge problem. But until HUD increases those vouchers, they are going to continue to be, right now, under market value. That's it. The other part is, I know that there, and say temporary assistance to needed families, don't say food stamps, but
TANF would be the cash versus the food
yeah,
stamps.
I know,
which
but
would
I
be-
just like it's assistance. Anyway,
Yes, I guess it's actually SNAP now, correct?
SNAP,
It's
that's
SNAP,
right.
yes. Sorry about that.
Because they get a little car. Anyway, but the other concern has been, you know, well, how are they going to pay their electric? There wouldn't be that concern if a person was paying market rate as it relates to how they're going to pay their electric or how they're going to pay their water bill or whatever. They are required in the contract, and I think we had a copy of an application. They are required to have running water. They are required to have electric. And if they don't have those things, then landlords have that tool or that mechanism within their application, at least the draft that we saw and the comments that we heard from the gentleman that was here representing the apartment association, then they have remedies for that. And he did share that they try to work with them, you know, with individuals to see if it's any assistance that they can provide for them. The fact of the matter is we have people with vouchers that are receiving assistance because they don't make enough in our economy to be able to afford somewhere to live. And they're being priced out of living, period. Whether it's here, if they request a transfer of that voucher to Pasco County, if you get a voucher for the City of St. Pete Housing Authority, then you can't really look in the county. So sometimes people surrender their vouchers in St. Pete or other cities in order to get on the county's voucher system so that they can look at places in other areas of our county in order to hope that they can find something. But even those individuals are having difficulty. We had the young lady here that talked about the paralegal that gave that example. She made in the range of your very first example. But because of the 3 times amount, even though she made $46,000, she still couldn't find a place because of the difference of her income versus what the voucher would cover and what they wanted in between. So, I mean, it's a difficult situation, but at some point, somebody's got to look out for somebody. And it could be, you know, it could have been me. You know, what if I was in that situation? I lived in Jordan Park. My parents paid full rent. We didn't have a voucher. But that's where I lived, you know, for 21 years of my life. So I understand what some of the concerns and things of that nature have been, but I also think that what we asked staff to go back and look at and make some tweaks and changes for us is commendable. My question is, what did we come up with? Because I did send this email. What did we come up with as it relates to the issue regarding insurance companies charging landlords increasing their insurance if they rent it to 20% or greater of vouchers? Because I think that is a discriminatory issue that should be taken up on other levels. I did ask for somebody if they had a application or something they could send me so that we would have that example and we could, you know.
I do, Carol will speak to that specifically. I did want to bring up one item that you were mentioning about how the remaining money for expenses could be used for security deposits or various other things that are required in the lease. That is one of the changes that Carol mentioned we made in the ordinance, was that if it is in the lease and it is a required expense, that ultimately that tenant is still going to be responsible for it. So that could be, you know, maybe they saved up some money for the security deposit, maybe somebody gave them or gifted them money. But regardless, we're not saying they're still going to have to meet those criteria.
And that was one of the concerns of the tenant association,
Right.
that we were saying they wouldn't have to pay that amount because some people, based on their income, like veterans, are at zero on their end because the voucher covers 100% for them. So I'm sorry, can you speak to that insurance thing? Because I was waiting for that language. Because I know Commissioner Long gave a suggestion about somebody to contact or whatever.
Yes, the Office of Consumer Protection did contact the State Office of Insurance Regulation. They did request some examples, and those were provided to them. They have not given us any formal feedback at this time, but they are aware of the issue. We also did have a good conversation with Bay Area Apartment Association with a risk manager for one of their portfolio members. It is a very complex issue. In some instances, it's not as clear-cut as it's written into a policy that if you have 19% of your clients, you're okay, 20, you're okay, and then you're 21%, your insurance changes. It has to do with underwriting, with the warranties when someone applies. So it's a very complex issue. We acknowledge that there is a concern and a practice there in the insurance industry, but have weighed that against not knowing how big a problem that would actually be for the tenants and for the landlords in leasing to these tenants, as well as the concern, what is the effect on the intent of the ordinance? The intent of the ordinance is anti-income discrimination. And if denying tenants because of their source of income due to insurance cost, is that contrary to the intent of the ordinance? So at this point, it is a policy decision for the board. There is language in the St. Petersburg ordinance that the county attorney's office has available that is relatively narrow and specific, requiring that a landlord demonstrate on a particular case that it is impacting their insurance rate, and that's something the board could consider. But we do not, at this point, recommend kind of a blanket exception for increase in insurance cost.
Yeah, I wasn't looking, but thank you for that, but I wasn't looking for that. And maybe that's another conversation that we can have, because that is a bigger issue, but it is, in my opinion, completely discriminatory, because essentially you're saying because this person is poor and they can't afford, that now you're putting this additional layer on their ability to be able to partake in safe, clean, and affordable housing, because they need a little assistance. But we have programs, federal programs and state programs that provide assistance to these individuals. So I think that that's pretty rough. Thank you again for the work that you all have done in trying to accommodate some of the concerns that were addressed. One of the letters said that they felt like there's no change or anything in what it is that, in the questions that we asked in the presentation that you all are bringing forward today. But I see that you all addressed the things that I know at least I asked to be addressed. And so, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Gerard.
Yeah, I guess it is complicated. However, I'm wondering,
You know, somebody mentioned that if you were renting a market rate apartment, you wouldn't be all that worried about whether the person could pay for utilities or not, although the 3 times is the income standard that they use. So if I make $2,000 a month, so now if my rent is $2,000, they want me to make $6,000 a month. So I can pay the rest of my bills, which it seems a bit paternal to me, but, you know, because there are other sources for those funds. And I would like to, before we changed anything about the insurance, I would like to have some kind of clarification in writing, you know, from the insurance commissioner or somebody that says this is a legal practice, because I know I have a rental property. Nobody ever asked me who was going to rent the property and where they were going to get their money from. I mean, and it's certainly not in my insurance policy. So I guess I'm concerned about that. I mean, we all have issues with insurance these days. My insurance has certainly gone up, and I had to prove that everything in my house was brand new before I could get another insurance policy this year. I mean, it was crazy. But, and so I get, you know, the fact that a landlord might have issues with insurance, it just kind of puts them in the same class as everybody else in the country at this point. Yeah. Okay. And so I heard the housing authority person was here last time, I think from Pinellas County Housing, and they talked about when they give somebody a voucher, they've already worked through those budget details and how they're gonna pay the rest of their
It's a budget
expenses.
worksheet that they have to complete and go through, and their caseworker verifies that.
Yeah, so it's all, so I guess that's good enough for me. I don't know, you know, it's so hard to get a voucher in the first place. And it's good to know that that the housing authority makes sure of those things, but, you know, I have a friend who makes $850 a month. He's disabled. And he can't, there's no way. I mean, even if he got a voucher, I don't think he'd be able to, I don't think he would meet that income standard that he has to be able to pay all his other bills with no other income. You know, we're talking about people who need a place to live. I mean, for me, that's the bottom line, is that, you know, the rent is being paid, and they have some other way to get the rest of their expenses met. We already know that. So I think talking about a different income standard, and my question is, what if we didn't use that 3 times income standard that we're talking, that's the objection, is that if somebody only has $200 in income, they're not going to be able to pay their electric bill. But, oh no, I forgot where that was going. Never mind.
We'll come back to you.
Yeah, good.
Commissioner Long.
Well, I just for reference wanted to remind everyone, and I don't see Brian Lowack sitting here, but it occurs to me that right on the northwest corner of Ulmerton and 113th Street, there's a Department of Financial Services in that building, in that big state building on the 4th floor. And I would suggest that somebody get with them and put that in our policy recommendations when we come forward with our legislative recommendations for next year, that the state begin to look at these issues in terms of regulatory action, because clearly it begs for some resolution as it relates to the premiums and the rates. And you know that that's a major issue in our state, not only for rental insurance, but homeowners, auto, you name it. It's really becoming unaffordable for an awful lot of people. And what do you do when it's a requirement, if you know what I mean? So I do think that as a policy group, it's worthy of our consideration when we get to that point that we're talking about legislative recommendations.
I thought that's what you asked for when we were here last time. You made that comment, and I
I'm
thought
just repeating that.
No. I'm not negative against you. I'm saying I thought that you would ask staff to do that.
And we did
And, yeah.
get in touch with them, but Commissioner, I think we'll certainly advise Mr. Loack of your intent to discuss it as part of the
Well, I
legislative
bump
platform.
it up to the division manager. If
Okay.
the people at the local level are unable to respond, then let's go up the chain. Because at the end of the day, we do have an elected insurance commissioner. They don't call him that anymore, but what is it? Department of Financial Services.
CFO.
But he's under the state fire marshal.
CFO.
The CFO, that.
Jimmy?
Thank you.
Commissioner Gerard?
I remembered what it was. So my question is, if we didn't use the 3 times standard for those people that have very low income, what would we use? I mean, what number or percentage of whatever would somebody have to come up with to pass inspection? I mean, it seems to me that if the housing authority thinks they can afford it, they're not going to, they don't throw those vouchers around. They make sure that people, are able to use them properly. And I guess for me, that would be enough of a standard, but, because otherwise I don't know. I mean, whose electricity and water and whatever payments you might have to be making, are you gonna base it on mine or, the county attorneys or what? Because mine's probably way different than hers.
And there is language in the City of Tampa's ordinance that references reasonable expenses that we did look at and came to the conclusion that you're referencing is how do you enforce that and how do you determine reasonable expenses? We are satisfied that the Housing Authority's budget worksheet takes into account the expenses for that tenant.
Further questions for staff before we move to public comment?
Just one quick.
Commissioner Eggers.
So, again, understanding it is one thing, but why are we've been trying in so many ways to bring consistency and approach in this county, whether it's we're even talking about, let's try to get the building departments kind of on the same page so that it's easier for those that are using it. And it seems like St. Pete has gotten out ahead of us, and it would be really smart of us. I mean, and again, the subtle differences here, I'd like to see them, but to be on the same page so that our county is speaking like with one voice. And if we do have an opt-out for the other cities, then they're all on the same page so that we're consistent throughout the county. And to me, that seems reasonable. So,
And Commissioner, as the board directed, we did have conversations with the City of St. Petersburg, in particular on those 2 areas where we differ, source of income and insurance. They did agree to continue to look at that, to look at what the Pinellas County Board of County Commissioners does, and to evaluate that consistency issue. So we're in dialogue with them.
Where is St. Pete in their process?
They are currently considering the notice of rent increase provision. This is about the 4th time they've gone back to their ordinance and made modifications. So they are continuing to look at it.
So that's what they've passed something and they're continuing to modify it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right,
Mr. Chairman.
Hang on one second. Commissioner Seal?
Well, I concur with Commissioner Eggers, and I'll go back to the wage theft ordinance, and it was passed by the City of St. Petersburg first, and then we decided to adopt it, and then we, being the county, said we would, then monitor it and watch it and enact it. So it just, with 24 cities being able to opt out of what we do, it just seems smart that we would work with the largest city and come to some agreement.
I agree.
Commissioner Flowers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to share that I've been in conversations ever since we've been talking about this with a council member from St. Pete. They have another workshop coming up because there's some additional language that goes even farther than what we're talking about here today. And I'm not sure if that's the direction that you all would be wanting to go in or not. There has been a request for consideration from the tenants' rights group that they look at doing a referendum. We haven't even discussed doing that. And I don't want to repeat the language because I'm not going to say it right, because it was a conversation even as I was coming up here. But some of the things that they're asking for that council to consider, it's far beyond what they're going to ask the city of St. Pete for. It's far beyond what we're even willing to do with the additional steps here. And so I don't want us to, I'm going to use the word chase. I don't want us to chase the city of St. Pete's ordinance, because it's going to be changing. It's going to be changing, and I'm not sure if that's, I don't know everybody's thought process. I said that to the person. I can only speak for my understanding of what I see it being the verbiage and assisting for people who need help right now. But, doing a referendum and all of that, that takes time. That's a process. And so that wouldn't happen immediately. But, and also that council member informed me that they've been in communications with Councilmember Orlando Gould's from across the bay. And some of you may have seen where they had their first reading on their ordinance. There's something else that's coming back before their commission, so they haven't even solidified what it is that they're going to do. And St. Pete has kind of been mirroring them somewhat. So I just wanted to share that St. Pete's also looking at us today about what we're going to do. And again, they have some additional meetings coming up where they're going to be, if it's voted on, they've been asked to make some changes or to add some things to their ordinance, and they're going to be at least looking at that. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Further comments or questions? Staff have anything further until we?
Nothing further, thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to go to public comment. We're going to start with our folks that have registered online for Zoom. We'll start first with Jay Thompson. You'll unmute. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Hello, my name is Jay Thompson.
Go ahead, Mr. Thompson. You've muted yourself.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. So my name is Jay Thompson. I reside in St. Petersburg. And I appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to speak in opposition to the ordinance amending Chapter 42 of the Pinellas County Code adopting a tenant's bill of rights. I'm currently a Central Oak Park resident, a former apartment renter, a former property management employee for assets in Clearwater and St. Pete, a member of the Bay Area Apartment Association Board of Directors, and a current software solutions provider to the multifamily industry. The company I work for services over 1,700 companies and 7.8 million units, encompassing many of the multifamily firms in Pinellas County. Regarding source of income, I asked that we amend to vouchers specifically regarding housing choice vouchers and Veterans Affairs supported housing. I stand with the commission in wanting to find equitable solutions and believe that defining these vouchers will ensure that housing providers know the programs well and encompass options that coincide with lease obligations, such as funding for the entire lease plan. Another consideration regarding source of income is the current language which will require landlords to income qualify residents with little or no income. As a former operator, the 3-times standard is not used to cover the deposit. It is used to truly ensure that someone can live and rent the unit. A landlord at minimum should be allowed to consider cost to maintain an apartment besides the rent. This includes trash, utilities, water. Enabling a landlord to qualify a resident for these expenses helps to ensure the resident doesn't have to decide between groceries, gas, childcare, etc. And operators are usually able to give you the customary cost for these additional expenses. Finally, I'm asking the commission to add an exemption if the landlord's insurance costs increase due to increased vouchers on the property. Many insurance companies only allow for a percentage of vouchers on a property, and if that percentage is surpassed, there's a substantial increase or a total loss of protection, then requiring them to secure additional insurance, usually at an increased price. That cost has to be absorbed and be passed on as higher rates for renters. As the issue of Pinellas County comes down to supply and demand when it comes to housing, simple economics shows us that when demand is met by supply, pricing stabilize. Hence, the federal rising interest rates. To potentially increase the cost burden on a current or potential multifamily operator will further exacerbate our current housing situation. St. Pete is out of this exemption. I ask that we model theirs and to retroactively look at the effects after the ordinance does not decrease the potential burden on the landlord.
Thank you, Mr.
nor the
Thompson.
subsequent effects on today's rate.
Thank you. Your time is
In
up.
conclusion, I admit that there.
Your time is up. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Next is Rose Nurse. Ms. Nurse, if you'll unmute. All right, we'll come back. Next is Jaleesa Blackshear. If you'll unmute, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, the County Board of Commissioners. My name is Jaleesa Blackshear. I live at 2510 10th Street South in the neighborhood of Lake Maggiore Shores in St. Petersburg. I'm urging you to support a strong tenant bill of rights here in Pinellas County. It is important that a robust prohibition on income discrimination is passed without loopholes or exceptions, and that it does not allow individual cities to opt out. The objections raised by corporate interests like the Bay Area Apartment Association are completely disingenuous and should not be given precedence over the rights of working class tenants. The majority of those who receive vouchers through Pinellas County Housing Authority or even St. Petersburg Housing Authority are extremely low income and non-white. Allowing landlords to deny voucher recipients is a tactic endorsement of class and racial discrimination allowing landlords to deny voucher recipients would be a tactic of endorsement of class and racial discrimination by the Pinellas County government. Any risk or cost to landlords by prohibiting income discrimination pales in comparison to that of low-income tenants who currently face homelessness and material suffering due to the uneven playing field. Please vote yes and pass the strong countywide tenant bill of rights tonight or today without any provisions demanded. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move to in-person attendees. William Kilgore. Mr. Kilgore. Good morning. Come forward, introduce yourself. You have 3 minutes to address the board.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name's William Kilgore with the St. Petersburg Tenants Union. Thanks to staff and Director Strickland for this ordinance. It looks really good. There's a couple issues we kind of have with it, but as it's written now, you know what? It's good. It needs to stay where it's at here and not take into account some of these suggested changes. Somebody mentioned it, consistency across the county. The thing is that we need you all to pass this today so we can go back and get St. Pete to take some of these loopholes out. A good example actually is the 10-day inspection time. So St. Pete did 5 days. That's when this apartment association came in. They did this deliberately because it takes on average 7 days for the St. Pete Housing Authority to conduct those inspections. So they did that 5 day just to do that. That's what these other things with the insurance. The same research staff did. I did some of that research. It's illegal under the Fair Housing Act, and there's actually been lawsuits filed against these insurers, for denying coverage and things like that. And there's been successful settlements with that, actually right here in Florida too. So if the Bay Area Apartment Association actually cared about their members, they would be trying to team up with HUD, some of these other groups that are filing lawsuits against these bad insurers. But this is not a widespread practice at all in Pinellas County. It's a big smoke screen, and they're throwing all this stuff at y'all, just trying to, muddy the waters here. As far as the income standard, it's another ridiculous thing. If somebody makes zero income, look, there's homeless people they're trying to get off the streets, who are, it's a very small number maybe of folks, but the fact is some of these buildings are they're luxury buildings. And the fact is they don't want poor people there. There's a racial element. They don't want black people there because they're racist. And it's ridiculous. And we see this kind of thing all the time. And I tell you, because I've seen the dark side of this industry, organizing with tenants. Thing is, even if this gets passed, they're still going to be doing illegal stuff until they get called on it, until they get caught. That's why people come to us and ask for our help advocating for things. I mean, we have landlords who do self-help evictions. I've had a property manager brag to me about how he just changes the locks. Oh, I do it all the time. I mean, you can't do that. You have to go through the courts and file an eviction. So it's ridiculous. So there's a, this represents corporate interests. They've got a mom and pop face on it. Don't buy it, and get this passed today, please, because we need help. Tenants need help. We need to have the tools for us to help advocate and to help organize these tenants and to help build tenant power. We need this on the county level. It's the most basic thing. These are some of the most vulnerable people in the county, and they need your help. We need your help. So please, vote yes and don't change anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Christopher Conlon. Come forward, introduce yourself. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Good morning. My name is Chris Conlon. I'm the Risk and Insurance Administrator for the Mahaffey Apartment Company based in St. Petersburg. My background in risk management is composed primarily of insurance market placement for multifamily owners across the nation, as well as being a claims advocate. I hold a professional risk consultant designation from the Insurance Institute of America, and I'm an expert in commercial property, general liability, umbrella, and flood coverages as it relates to commercial multifamily real estate. The current insurance market is the hardest it's been in the last 20 years. What this means for owners and operators is that there are fewer carriers participating in the space offering terms. Premiums are increasing already at a 15 to 30% year over year increase for properties even with no losses. Deductibles are increasing, coverages are being stripped or sublimited, or coverage is not being offered at all. Coverage for this particular asset class is solely relegated with the exception of a few outliers to the excess and surplus lines market. The difference here is admitted carriers such as your Travelers, your bigger policy holders. There was a mass exodus starting probably in '94 after Hurricane Andrew as it relates to hurricane losses and also the rise in litigation for property and liability claims in the state. The current market rates are higher than we've ever seen for these lines of coverages, and underwriting now is more stringent than we have seen in recent history. As a crucial component of the underwriting process, carriers' willingness to write insurance for properties with Section 8 or voucher programs. Historically, this has been set to warrant policies up to a 20% threshold or not at all. The marketplace is staying away from these recipient programs for all new policies based on historical claims data. For policies that are grandfathered, the thresholds remain the same. However, should those particular portfolios take on more Section 8 or voucher recipients, they are threatened with policy cancellation or denial of coverage in the event of a claim. That hurricanes are now an ever more present factor for property owners here in Florida. The willingness to take on more risk associated with this class from an actuarial standpoint, carriers are stripping this coverage and excluding it from their underwriting practices. We've already started to see that there will no longer be any one particular carrier willing to write the full limit of replacement costs for a building, usually dictated by an owner-operator's loan requirements. These policies are now being forced into layering practice with a plethora of carriers, usually at 2 to 3 times the rate of a standard single policy, writing the full and total insurable value. In short, all owners from an affordability standpoint will be affected. Carriers in this hard market are not participating historically as they have been offering affordable rates or coverage at all in this limited market. This motion would in fact make the issue of unaffordable insurance a much larger issue for owners and operators and ultimately their bottom line and overall risk averseness. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is, I apologize, it looks like Eve Carlson. Ivan, Eve, BACAHG.org, Tampa, Florida. Anybody? P.O. Box 151958.
I apologize for my very bad handwriting.
You'll have 3 minutes. Introduce yourself.
Eric Arduino with the Bay Area Apartment Association, Government Affairs Director for the organization. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Again, my apologies for the very bad handwriting. So today we're talking about the tenant bill of rights. For our organization, there are two main pieces that we raised in the last meeting that we're hoping would be further addressed. They weren't addressed, and that's, I think, the reason why you saw some emails from our members and outreach from some of our members. The two issues deal with income standard and insurance. Let's start with insurance first. My colleague just sort of gave you a very short synopsis of the challenge, but the bottom line is landlords are going to be put between a rock and a hard place if this goes forward without an insurance provision dealing with exceptions. Because right now, the insurers will raise rates if we go over certain percentages. We know that is going to happen. We know that's going to happen with some of our members for sure, when they have to accept vouchers beyond the percentage that their insurers are dictating to them. Now, I can appreciate perhaps a longer fight around this, but as it stands right now, if this gets passed tomorrow or not too far down the road, those insurance rates are going to increase for the members, and those rates then are going to have to be passed on across all renters who are at a particular apartment community. We don't want to see that happen. I don't think anybody wants to see that happen. So that's one point. Just to underscore, we know there's going to be harm, so let's address the harm, and if we need to study it more, we're more than happy to engage with everybody to study it more. But that is a harm that we know will come. Going to the income standard, I do want to highlight a couple pieces. One, in terms of the language that at least we saw in the ordinance, the income standard language there does not expressly limit it to the discussion that we've all had just now, and that's vouchers. It doesn't expressly limit it to housing choice vouchers or VASH. So we're talking about scenarios that deal with the housing authority, but the language itself is very expansive. So it goes well beyond the housing authority. And so addressing the language in that respect so that the examples that we're talking about are in fact the types of things that will be addressed by the language and limited to those things would be ideal. Additionally, in terms of trying to address the income standard number so that 3 times the renter's portion calculation. So going back to the example that we had a few minutes ago of that $1,000 rent, and we're looking at $500 as the resident's portion, that's one example. But that 500 could be 100, or it could be 900. It could be anywhere in that sort of scale. And so taking the risk of when a resident is closer to that 100 level, that's a challenge and an issue, I think, for any business owner. And I think everybody can understand that as being a problem. And so having some language to address that, I think, again, as mentioned earlier, the city of Tampa looked at this and made some changes to their ordinance that address this particular issue. That could be a route for this county to address it too. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Tim Shelgrove? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Tim Snowgrove. I'm a Largo resident. I am a realtor for almost 20 years now, and for 18 of those years, I've been doing property management. I'm a member of the Apartment Association. I'm also a member of an organization called NARPM, the National Association of Residential Property Managers. We represent the mom and pops, the individual owners. So I'm a little bit of a different market in some cases. So on the income standard, the current ordinance does require certain things, and I've heard a lot of discussion. I think there's a lot of clarification that could be put into that. Simply on things like, you're talking about a calculation. I'm an engineer by trade. Give me a formula to go by. That might make sense. As Eric also mentioned, it doesn't limit where that money is coming from. A lot of talk in Section 8 and VASH, great, qualified programs. What if it's a charitable organization? How do we know they're actually funded for the length of that lease? I don't want to put a person into a property that's going to fail. Nobody wins. On the insurance side, I understand they're asking for the exception on the insurance for, obviously, if they get increased. If they get canceled, then they have to go somewhere else. Insurance today is a big issue, much bigger than we can deal with right now. I see it on the single-family side. Individual owners, condo associations are getting hit with huge increases. And I actually see that affecting the sales side as well right now. So that's another issue. On the tenant bill of rights side, if I go back, and I understand what we're going to do here, it's basically you're giving an information form to the prospect tenant before they ever sign a lease so they know what they're getting into. It makes absolute sense. If I go back 15 years, our application package was 2 to 3 pages at most. My application package today is 42 pages. 2/3 of that is all disclosures.
So
Trying to
all
inform people what they're getting into, a sample copy of the lease, lead-based paint pamphlets, everything the government's lumping on. And I hate to say this, but the prospects just don't read that stuff. We're lucky if we can get tenants to actually read their lease. In my opinion, tenants want to know 3 things. How much is the rent? When's it due? And can I pay it online? That's my 2 cents. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jordan Brooks. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for the chance to speak. So my name is Jordan Brooks. I'm a senior market analyst at Ale & Apartment Data. We're a nationwide market research firm and data provider for the apartment industry. And that kind of gives us, I think, a good perspective to kind of zoom out from these local issues that a lot of localities are facing to sort of the regional and national trends as well, and what some of those effects might be. A lot has already been said. I don't want to just come up here and repeat things. So, on the insurance side specifically, I think one of the things that we pay a lot of attention to in my position and at my company is a lot of the issues we've seen in the apartment space over the last year plus have been related to the supply-demand imbalance that we saw last year. Explosive demand and the supply was fairly typical. And so that shortfall is affecting a lot of things. And when we come to something like this insurance provision, that's something where we could see a negative impact on supply because, again, if apartments are losing coverage or if their coverage is getting more and more expensive, again, that's a cost that's going to be passed on to residents, which doesn't help anyone. And ultimately, that could lead to less units really being in circulation because of these rising costs. On the income standard point, I think, again, a lot of this is just a need for clarification. But we're talking about not just utilities and other fees associated with the apartment, but living expenses as they are, groceries, childcare, et cetera. And so I think in the examples that we saw, both of those specific examples had, single parent, 3 children. That's going to affect the other benefits that you're able to receive. Not everyone is in that situation where they may not have 3 children. They may not have those additional dependents. And so the assistance they're receiving is going to be a lower amount. And so that's where we get into an issue where, again, are we setting up a resident for failure, getting them in a unit, and then it turns out that with this income standard as it's currently written, they're really not able to meet those obligations. And so, again, I think both of these issues, we've heard some talk about, landlords have a certain reputation, there's a certain narrative, but it's been really encouraging and inspiring really during the COVID era to see how property management companies, boots on the ground, reacted, responded, tried to help their residents. Most people working in this industry really think about it as our jobs are affecting people's homes, and that's a positive thing. So it's not just some sort of greed thing. We're trying to make sure that the intent of the proposal isn't going to be offset by unintended consequences of some of these particular details. And so some of these tweaks that we'd like to see, I think, are just trying to reduce those negative unintended consequences that seem likely to arise. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Sebastian Harris. Come forward, introduce yourself. You have 3 minutes to address the board.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Sebastian Harris. I'm a Pinellas County resident. I'm also a real estate broker who specializes in the investment sale of multifamily property with a very specific focus on Pinellas County. I also happen to be a landlord with a supermajority of voucher-based tenants at my own property. I work with countless investors and property managers throughout the area. My understanding of what y'all are trying to do is many folks will not even entertain a voucher-based tenant. You see on many advertisements, no Section 8, no vouchers allowed. The issue that a majority of my clients and the property managers who I deal with that have with the program is not with the tenants. It is with dealing with housing. They are very challenging. You essentially have an additional tenant, right? Besides the individual, now the housing authority is also your tenant. They're very difficult to communicate with. They're very difficult to get any amount of response from. And the issue that a majority of investors and managers have is not with the tenant or their income. It is with dealing with the housing authority. My opinion here is that shoving these requirements down a landlord's throat is not the answer. They're typically happy to work with these individuals. We need a much more robust housing program. We need more available vouchers. We need housing advisors who are not overworked, under-resourced, and underpaid. We need these individuals that care very much about the tenants to be able to do something and, help the landlord so that the landlords can help the tenant and provide a safe, clean place for these individuals to live, which is getting more and more challenging by the day as we all see incredibly increased costs on the landlord side. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Greg Pound?
Thank you, Greg Pound, Pinellas County. It's not sounding good, and I'll give a little verse here. This is Psalms 9:17. The wicked shall be turned into hell, and the nation that forgets God. I was going to say, I have a street ministry where I go out and help people on the street. And just one thing I want to clarify, one of the people said on the call-in about, this isn't just minorities, but this is straight across the board. Majority of the people I work with are white people. Now, the guy I was helping yesterday was from Puerto Rico. But what it is it's a thing that's coming down on us because of a corporate greed, the love of money, and we're supposed to love people and use things, but now we're using people and loving things, and that's what our leaders have become. You look at the leaders in Washington, and it's sad because the majority of them are white people. And and they're just you just see the condition we're in as a nation and a people. So we're under judgment, and it's not going to get better; it's going to get worse. And I've got tons of people on the tracks in Largo, all around. There's so much. Just go look in the bushes, or just walk through the Largo Park. Just go for a walk through the Largo Park and look at all the people. And then one of the big problems they're having with these people on the street is they say, as I talked to them, they said it'd be nice if the police would at least let them sleep. When you go out and someone's sleeping in a bush and you got to see their driver's license, identification, run all this stuff on them, and then 4 hours later another police officer comes up, does the same thing on them, and you've got all these people. And I just think it's really a sad situation. It's called oppression. We got predators now running our country right into the ground. And just look at what's going on. It's just, we got people who don't care. All they care about is that money. The love of money is the root of all evil, like it says. And so that's what we have. We have now people become lovers of money more than lovers of God to their own destruction. So if we don't get back to not relating to who we are by what we have, but by our relationship with God and other people, we're going to be in big trouble, and we are. And you guys are detached. You need to go out on the streets and start talking with people. I'm out there every day, evening, morning, night. Go out there and just go out and try to help people. Just go out there. I've got a guy that owns a company. They don't care. I've got guys work. He'll give you a job. You don't care if you have a driver's license, Social Security. He just wants to keep his business going. And I've got him 5 employees. He's paying them $15 an hour, and they can't get a place to live. They work every day. These are men, and they don't have nowhere to shower. They can't even get a place to live, and they're getting $15 an hour. It's just a real sad situation. And I bring them home, let them shower and stuff, and it's all over the place. It's all over the place, and it's just a corruption. It's the corruption of our leaders in our country.
David Ballard Geddes Jr.
Hi, good morning. David Ballard Geddes Jr. I live at Georgia Avenue in Palm Harbor. I have somewhat of a different perspective on this issue in relating to the city itself. Could the city be seen as a tenant or a renter of such from the county, such as the city of St. Petersburg or Largo renting an individual location within the county? Or could the county itself, in a larger sense, be seen as an occupant or a leasee of such from the state? And even the recent redistricting in Tallahassee that took place this last year, could that possibly be viewed as a apartment dwelling of such for legislation to inhabit? If so, from that perspective, a political sense, how would such vouchers as presented today apply to a political scenario such as I described, and where would that voucher money come from in such Bill of Rights for such tenants? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ellsworth Williams, Tony Williams. Come forward, introduce yourself. You have 3 minutes to address the board.
Good morning. I'm Ellsworth Williams. I reside in St. Pete, Gandy Boulevard. I woke up this morning, I call this a God assignment. I woke up this morning, I had 3 meetings planned, and I saw this, and I said in my heart, I need to be here. And I canceled the meetings, and I come here to talk about this. I'm responsible for several organizations. I'm the President and CEO for Veterans Council and Veterans. I'm also the Army Armed Services Veteran Affairs Committee Chair for the NAACP. And I'm also the Central Area Veterans Affairs Rehab Chair for American Legion. So those guys you saw here are 16th District, one of my districts. I cover both Polk County, Hillsborough County, and Pinellas County. So one thing I do see is that the geographical boundaries is really fluid, based with what we're talking about. As we mentioned in St. Pete, we mentioned in Hillsborough and other areas. The reason why I'm up here is really to make sure that we don't think about the veterans. I know that Commissioner Flower mentioned about veterans and 0%, but majority of veterans, they don't get that. In fact, in Florida, we are the number 2 population for women veterans, number 2. And I'm not even sure, Jeffrey's not here, I'm not even sure where we are when it comes to Pinellas County, how many women veterans we have here. And I can tell you anecdotally, when the governor had a tour of the women for trying to identify the women veterans issues, woman veteran stood up, and she was single parent, had three kids, a veteran. And she had the voucher that the VA was paying her. She had to live in a place that I'd be afraid. It'd be like a fob. We call it in the military a fob. It's such a dangerous spot just to afford that. I'm not sure the answer obviously is going to be more than just what you guys are doing. It's going to be a federal, county, and state. And I'm here for that fight. So we know I'm part of for the CBAP talking about the housing. I just think that we need to really take a good look at how it's going to affect the veterans, even when who are here or who are retired or have medical discharge, whatever. Can they afford this? I noticed that we have to sit there, and the intersection is really difficult between the greed and the need. And that's where you guys come in, the leadership comes in, because there's a point where we have to sit there and say, whoa, 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 whoa. There's a point where we have to sit there and start looking at the need versus the greed. And I just wanted to break, I'm here just to make sure that for me, I represent the veterans and their families, regardless of the intersection. That's why I'm here, just to make sure we don't forget about them. Thank you very much for giving me the time.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Nick Carey? Nick Carey? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick Carey, 10th Street North, St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm an organizer with a group called Faith in Florida. We organize for justice with people of all faith across the state of Florida. And I'm very grateful for the people that have brought faith into this room, because I think it's so important when we're talking about the intent of this legislation, as Ms. Strickland presented, was about preventing discrimination. It's about serving the least of these, the people that need our help most. We have people who are in dire straits, and we have people who are concerned about their bottom line. And I think that we need to prioritize the folks who are in dire straits and need some form of assistance. So I really am encouraged by the staff's willingness to stay strong in the provisions and the intent of the ordinance, and I urge you to vote yes for it. And I just want to say again, encourage everyone up here to think about what we can do and not think about all of the limitations or like, well, what about people who also have this problem? Well, let's talk in the future about how we can help people pay for their electricity, groceries, medicine, and whatever they need. And right now, let's talk about housing, because I said this back in June, and I'll say it again. It makes absolutely no sense to say someone can't afford their groceries. They can't afford electricity. They can't afford water. So therefore, they should be homeless. We cannot do that to people. We need to make sure that we're doing what we can for them on the housing front, get them a roof over their head, and then let's continue this conversation about how we get people resources that they need to be successful and strive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Wanda McCawthorn? Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners, all of you. I'm here representing the people of Friends of Ridgecrest and Pinellas County. We are concerned about housing. We are concerned about the bill. We support the bill. I support the bill, and we were hoping that you all, with all your concerns and your issues that you talked about today, will support this and help the people that are in need all over Pinellas County for housing. And as Mr. Carey said, not only for housing, but those that are least fortunate that cannot meet this criteria to get an affordable housing. So we do, Friends of Ridgecrest do support the bill, and we hope that you will support it and help people get housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Alicio Santana? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. It is good to see all of you here. And my name is Eliseo Santana. I've been a resident of Pinellas County since 1980 for 42 years. All 4 of my children and 13 of my grandchildren were born and are currently living in this county. So I have deep roots here, and I have to say that there's a lot of insecurity in our community. By the way, I'm also the president of the largest Latin American Citizens Council in the state of Florida, residing here in Pinellas County. And I want to describe a little bit about my situation, because that probably will enlighten more. I live in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage house in Clearwater, which I was able to buy 10 years ago. And currently, I have 3 of my adult children living with me. 6 of my grandchildren are living in my household. All 3 of my grown children work full-time. They're very productive. 2 of them are single mothers. And they have the 6 children that reside in my home. They're unable to really find a place that's affordable for them. And like I said before, they work full time. So we're able to offer them that safety net in my home, temporary. And I say temporary, and I'm very worried. My daughter just about several months ago applied for a apartment nearby in Dunedin, and that will meet her needs, and it was like $2,200 for it, and she just received a call saying that there was an opening for that she could go in for $3,100 for the same apartment. That is in a very short period of time. Hispanic families are large. We're multi-generational. Hispanic families are basically the backbone of our essential workers here. And many of them are in my predicament, my situation that I am. Many of them rent private homes. And many of these private homes, because of the high increase in value, have now been being sold. And they're getting notices, and they're having to go and find places to live. And let me tell you that first month, last month, security, and when you multiply the increase from, like I mentioned before, 2,200 to like 3,000 plus, multiply that, you need a bank loan to be able to do that. I highly encourage that we enforce, that you pass these ordinances as the basics that we need to be able to have some protection. Many of the tenants that have been calling me, they don't know what their rights are. Please pass this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santana. Jack Wallace? Jack Wallace. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jack Wallace. I'm an organizer with the St. Petersburg Tenants Union. Like many people have come up here and said today, rents are skyrocketing. Everybody knows that. 20, 30, 40%. People are not being able to find places to live, and people are going homeless because of it. We need a strong Tenants' Bill of Rights. We don't need to water it down so that we can match St. Pete. We don't need to make it less strong so that we protect less people. I think that's a ridiculous thing to say. We need a strong Tenants' Bill of Rights so we can go back to St. Petersburg and other places in the county and say, hey, look, the county just passed this. This is our model. Let's do this here too. We need this. We need no loopholes to income discrimination, no to opt-outs. What are you going to say to the people that it affects in those places that the cities opt out in? Oh, I'm sorry, we just couldn't do it. We just couldn't do it in those places. Sorry. We prefer to protect the higher profits of corporations and developers and the housing market than to protect you. Unfortunately, that's the decision that you would make if you go ahead with these loopholes and these opt-outs. The apartment association and the sort of goons came here, right, to talk about the risks of insurance, things like that, right? And I guess I would say that, are you going to cater to the risks of the insurance in the housing industry, and the risk is to have less profit? Or are you going to cater to the risks of the tenants, of the people who live here, the people that you represent? These industries have come here and they've threatened us. I mean, they threatened you. They all threatened you with increased costs because they don't want to dip into their profit margins, right? They're the ones who are deciding to pass on those costs to their residents, to their tenants. They're threatening you and saying, hey, if you vote for this, we're going to tell the people that live here and that we represent, okay, these people raise the costs on you. Go elect other people or something. Go for, get somebody else to elect it in their position. Unfortunately, they're the ones who are price gouging people. It's not going to be you. More protection doesn't mean that they have to pass on the prices to the consumers, to the people, to the tenants. Get this passed today. No loopholes, no opt-outs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Angela DiReno? Angela? Good morning.
Good morning. Oh, y'all don't talk back. Okay. Good morning. My name is Angela Reno, and my great-grandfather was the first African-American principal in Pinellas County, and his daughter, Dorothy Thompson, had the first African-American museum in Pinellas County, right here in Greenwood. Mm-hmm. And so I'm here representing my family, okay? I didn't grow up here, but when my grandmother got sick, I came and took care of her until she no longer lived here, and then she went and moved to D.C. and marched in the Women's March and got to see Shaka Khan, and then she went on to be in the great heavenly above. And so I'm here as a homeowner, praise God, for Habitat for Humanity, in concern for the regular person, the person that lives next door to me, the person that lives in Rainbow Village. I'm really concerned about what we as a community are doing to adults. Because we say that it takes a village to raise a child. But then when people come an adult, we say we need to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. So my concern is, if we're pulling ourselves by our own bootstraps, and we can't pay for food, so we go to the food shelter, and we can't pay for our electricity, and we have to apply for extra help for there, and we can't pay for our rent, so we get a voucher, and yet the people who own the land that we live on are like, well, but my insurance is going up. And I've sat in some of these appraisal meetings where people send lawyers on their behalf to go, well, we need less taxes because we need to make provisions for our renters. Where's the money going? I really want to know. Why are we not taking care of our children who become adults? Why are we not preparing them? Because that's what this is all about. We are not preparing people, and then we put them in a situation where they fail. So I just want to ask you, Sir Thomas More said it, for if we suffer your people, our people, to be ill-educated, by these people are educated. We're talking about educated people, people who have jobs, people who are essential to our community. If we suffer them and their manners are corrupted, nope, I don't think the people we're talking about aren't taking care of the properties that they live in. If we suffer them and then punish them for crimes, yes, because, you know, when people don't have a place to live, when people don't raise up to the standard of society, they become desperate and they do things that then affects the whole entire community. Why are we punishing people for being poor? Why are we punishing people for not being able to pull themselves up by their bootstraps?
Thank you for being here. Carla Correa.
Hello, I'm Carla Correa. I'm here with the St. Petersburg Tenants Union. I'm a lifelong resident of Pinellas County, and I currently reside in St. Petersburg. And I'm urging you all today to pass a strong Tenants' Bill of Rights with no input from the Bay Area Apartment Association. Don't make it like St. Pete. St. Pete has a ton of loopholes. Be a model for Pinellas County. You know, the Bay Area Apartment Association, they're talking about unintended consequences. But the only consequence is that they're being regulated. They just don't want to be regulated, and they're usually not. But now people, tenants, we're fighting back. We're saying we need this to be passed, and we need this to be passed with no loopholes. Individual cities should not be able to opt out. And the landlord's concerns, like many other speakers have stated, their concerns are related to their profits, but our tenants' right to housing should supersede landlords' drive for profit. Our lives are more important than their profits. And concerning voucher holders, 83% of voucher recipients in St. Pete are Black women. If we want to make racial progress, we have to pass this. We have to be protecting people from voucher discrimination. We need the Tenants' Bill of Rights. Landlords are always doing illegal things. They're locking people out. They're shutting off water. They're shutting off electricity. Imagine how disruptive that is. You're trying to get ready for work. Your power's turned off. You have to go bother your landlord. We need the Tenants' Bill of Rights. A lot of tenants do not know their rights. But on top of that, we also need to make sure that tenants' rights are actually being informed. We need an office of tenant advocacy so people can call when their rights are being violated. We need a guaranteed right to counsel in the case of evictions. And we need to declare a housing state of emergency. Additionally, landlords, slumlords, are not keeping up with their properties, and they're deteriorating quickly, and they're being condemned rapidly. And when they get condemned, there's no protections for where tenants have to go. At the Ashford Bayside Apartments in Kenneth City, they caught on fire, and a lot of those tenants ended up homeless. Like, we need protections for those people. So, while this needs to be strengthened a lot, I urge you to vote yes on it today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I have one more. Anyone else? Last call. I've got one more public speaker. All right, Jody Shirley. Good morning.
Good morning. So I wasn't prepared to really speak today, but after listening to all this banter back and forth, I am one of those property owners. I'm just a mom, a grandmother. I own a couple of properties that I bought that were in disrepair, that I've maintained. I've done what I could to get residents in them. They do not take vouchers. I'm not taking any vouchers right now just because I haven't been presented with that. But these are not big corporations. These are people like you and I that own houses. We're trying to help the community. I'm not trying to make big profits. I'm trying to help my fellow residents. This is this banter about their big corporations trying to show a profit. Well, there are expenses to running a business, and these are businesses. And I'm certain that no one goes to work every day to come home empty-handed. That's owning a property is a job. It's not a handout. It's no different than you guys coming to work today. You're going to leave here with a paycheck when you're finished. It's the same thing as a property owner. I'm not in support of many of the things in this bill. I'm also an elected official. There's a thing called home rule. This should be taken to the city level. Counties should not be enforcing things in other districts that they don't have a firsthand accountability to. So just consider that when you're voting today. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Commissioners, that's all the public comment I have. Commissioner Flowers.
So first, I want to thank everybody that made comments today. It seems like we remain focused on, I know I'm remaining focused on the 3 times the amount of rent. So, Mr. Chair, can we ask a question of someone who?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'll ask staff first, and if they don't know the answer, then I'll go to somebody else from the audience because I don't want to seem unfair. So when persons are requesting, well, let me give the example. When my daughter went to college at UCF and I made the bad decision to say if you score 4.0 your freshman year, I'll pay for your apartment your sophomore year. Well, she got a 4.2. And I had to go apartment hunting. And we found a really nice place that was safe and secure. I was asked to pay, but I understood it because she was 19. But I was asked to pay 2 times the amount for the deposit, not for everything else. I had to pay first, last, 2 times the amount for the deposit. And the deposit was refunded to us because we left it in good condition. So my question is, because the concern I have is that persons are being asked to pay 3 times the amount of rent. Is that being asked for the deposit?
The ordinance does not.
Not the ordinance. I'm talking about what's going on right now, not the ordinance.
The ordinance is silent on the deposit. I'm not familiar with the apartment practices with regard to deposits on leases.
Because I know I thought what we communicated was that we were leaving intact for the landlords because that's a part of what we can leave intact for them.
Yes, that's
okay.
correct.
So can I ask the gentleman, Eric, that's your name? Eric, can you come up, please? So to the best of your knowledge, when landlords are asking for 3 times the amount, is that for the deposit?
The 3 times the amount that we're talking about here is income standard related to the monthly rent. In regards to deposits, my understanding, and I'd have to go back and poll my members to get a better, fuller understanding, but that deposit amount could be different, very different from one to another. Usually it's 1 or 2 months rent. Sometimes it could be 3, I would imagine, but I don't know for sure because that's not a data point I've requested from my members on.
So if I wanted to move in and your rent was $2,000, you could ask me to pay 3 times the amount of rent, which was $6,000 plus a deposit plus last.
So the 3 times the rent isn't that you have to deposit money, it's to make sure that your monthly income is sufficient to make rent every month. So we just want to make sure you're
That's what I
earning
wanted
that.
you to say.
Yeah.
Thank you. So here's my concern. I sat here and I pulled up the state legislature, our state standard for living wage income. This was 2019. That's the last one they have. An adult with no children needs to make $17.71 an hour. We get people fighting just to raise people to $15 an hour. 1 child is $34.99 an hour. And 2 children is $44.19. 3 is $54.25 an hour. Our people don't make that here. Nobody. And I took my salary as a county commissioner. I have my own business too, so I don't just, for those that are watching, I don't just depend on this. I have and own my own business, and so I work. But my salary here equates to $48.15 an hour. I still would have difficulty, even making what I make, I would have difficulty being able to afford to be able to show that 3 times the amount to be able to rent. So that's why I asked the question. I wanted it for clarification that it's not for the deposit. This is, you want me to be able to show that my income reflects that amount. Our incomes in the state of Florida don't reflect that amount in general. Now, when you're up the corporate ladder, yes, there are some that make the dollar value to be able to afford that. So that's why I asked you that. So I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. The other concern I have is, yeah, you can, yes, sir. Thank you, Eric. The other concern I have is there was a gentleman in the aqua shirt. He talked about not knowing for sure how long the length of a person's that support, that assistance would be. When an individual receives a housing voucher, it is for a 12-month period of time. They don't do 6-month vouchers.
Right.
And then they do annual renewals, which means that tenant has to be able to show pay stubs and all that other good stuff, and they have to be recertified. That's the word that the Housing Authority uses. They have to be recertified so that if there's a change, an increase in income, decrease in income, whatever it is, then that's what they then base the following year voucher on. And that person cannot go out and rent something above the amount that that HUD will cover. So if HUD says 3-bedroom, this is the dollar amount, that person can't go out and get a 4-bedroom, this amount. It has to be within the voucher parameters. So they don't get that latitude. But just know, just sharing with you, sir, that if they get a voucher, it is for a 12-month period of time. It's not month to month. You're guaranteed that whatever percentage that voucher covers, you're guaranteed that. And the tenant is expected to pay whatever their difference is. And when they're not, then there are steps that can be taken because that person's not holding up to their end of the bargain, just like if they were paying rent on their own. My other concern is, I understand that the cost of living for things have gone up. Supply chain things have gone up. But things haven't gone up to where you're charging someone 300% of an increase. It hasn't gone up that much. We have a number of people. I was at a conference and I had a chance to speak. There are a number of individuals, when they looked at the population increase and then they looked at where these individuals are coming from. So I started posting some of those rental unit things, if any of you are my Facebook friends. So when you look at, in Chicago, in New York, out in Seattle, a 700 square foot apartment, $2,700 to $3,600 a month, their salaries equate to that. So now if they're relocating, we have a number of companies that are relocating portions of their operations here. I appreciate that. Some of their employees are moving here. They need a place to stay. So yes, when you come here and you're paying $2,000 or $2,500 for rent, it is a wonderful thing because it is far less than what you received when you lived elsewhere outside of the state of Florida. But those persons who reside here in the state of Florida, we don't make that per hour on average. So not only are we losing rental stock to persons who are relocating here, and it is cheaper to live here. We don't have all the different taxes that they have. We have the one tax here in Florida. But we're taking away even from the housing stock that may be available for people who do live here, or for our children who may graduate from college and want to come back and relocate here. They would love to come home. We want them to come home. We get reports all the time of a number of companies that can't hire people. They can't hire people because people can't afford to live here, or they can't afford to travel between here, Polk and Pasco County, where the rents are a little cheaper. And trust me, the crawl is going out that way as well. So they're going to be pushed beyond Polk and Pasco County very soon. So this isn't going to be something that just hinders Hillsborough, some of the larger or the 10 most populous cities. This is something that is going to hinder a number of people for quite some time. For the gentleman in the gray suit, thank you so much for sharing your information. There are, you were saying we need more vouchers. People have vouchers. Folks aren't accepting those vouchers. And so even individuals in Jordan Park, with Jordan Park going through its renovations and rehab, providing an additional 31 units of senior housing. So they're going from 30 to 61 units. So those tenants had to be placed somewhere. It was difficult for us even finding 30 units for those seniors because people weren't taking the vouchers, but vouchers are available. The St. Pete Housing Authority just opened up their vouchers. They just opened it up so people can now go on. People are going to get vouchers, but it's going to be difficult to find a place or a landlord that will accept that voucher for them to be able to live somewhere. I love what you said. And I think we all should work together with HUD because they have got to increase the dollar value that they place on those vouchers in order for individuals to be able to meet that dollar value request that landlords are looking for. I fully understand that, and again, I say it is discriminatory for insurance companies to do that. For the gentleman that was here, thank you so much for giving that breakdown from risk management. Thank you so much. But that's just like when we had the issue here in the state of Florida related to homeowners insurance and what they were doing with people there and what they were doing with auto insurance. Allstate was one of them. They didn't want to do homeowners insurance anymore here, but they wanted to do auto. State of Florida said if you're going to do insurance here, you got to do both. So they were kind of forced into that. So it is not nice that those insurance companies are doing that and placing that kind of pressure because you're choosing to rent to people who need housing. Some people are having difficulty even sustaining a job because they do not have a stable place to live. So when you can't get up in the morning and provide your activities of daily living, that's a nice way of saying taking a bath, taking care of your hygiene. If you can't even do that, then it's difficult for persons to want to hire you because you're going into that job interview not prepared at your best. So everything comes back to a safe, clean, and affordable environment for that person to live. Moms can't get custody of their children back because they don't have a safe, clean, affordable place to live. Families are hiding and at risk of losing their children because they're living in their cars or they're living in hotels, which are not really conducive to raise children. It's not really, hotels were never meant to be permanent housing situations. That's not what they were meant for, but that's what they're being used for. For the young lady in the white dress, thank you so much for being a landlord. I'm not here to say I want to hurt anyone from earning money. If that's your business, and that's the way for you to earn money. And I fully expect that encompassed in your rent request is you're going to break down like in a business. How much is my insurance? How much is it for lawn maintenance and lawn care? How much is it for this? So you build all of that into your cost for rent. So persons should not arbitrarily just come up with $3,600 for a one-bedroom apartment because your costs have not increased that much. That is what I'm here to try to address today. I'm not addressing, if someone can afford $3,000, $4,000, I know I couldn't, but if you can afford that, I am happy for you. Please tell me where you work. I'm putting in the application. But I'm here to address those people who are caught because they need that help. They have that help out there, but then they can't use the help that they've received because of that increase. So again, I'm thankful and grateful for the changes that we've made here. Oh, and the last thing I want to say is, when municipal governments, Julie, please correct me if I'm wrong, cities can make their own ordinances, like the city of St. Pete. We can't make that ordinance for them. So they can opt out of what we're doing or they can accept what we're doing. But I don't think we can go there and say, we passed this ordinance, so now you have to follow it. Is that correct? Correct. Because someone was saying, and I just want to make sure that they understand the process on that.
It's generally correct. I've been talking with, I will tell you, with my council here today, you do have a countywide charter that has certain enumerated countywide powers. There is one in there that speaks to consumer protection. We would want to go back and look and see if this really fits squarely within there. But if you pass a countywide ordinance, then generally you're going to be the one implementing it. Mm-hmm. So that would be a real policy decision. And I wouldn't necessarily want to say carte blanche that I feel like you can do it. We could certainly go back and investigate whether we think it fits into that countywide power as enumerated in your county charter. But again, countywide ordinance carries with it a lot of responsibilities as well.
So to be clear, the ordinance that we're addressing today is not countywide.
What the ordinance you said, here's the difference. You can pass a countywide ordinance that does not link to one of your charter powers. And it is only ineffective within municipalities if they choose to opt out or if they just simply pass an ordinance that is inconsistent. So for instance, St. Pete, the difference is that we've heard that their ordinance has from ours, that is what would apply within the city of St. Petersburg. Any other city with the ordinance you are passing, that you are considering today, any city within Pinellas County will be subject to this ordinance unless they pass their own ordinance that is not consistent or they simply take a formal action to opt out.
So this is a countywide, except for
Correct.
the exceptions that you just explained.
Correct, and that is set forth under section, it's set forth under what would be the new code provision, that's section 42-432. And it's under section 3 of the ordinance under consideration.
All right, thank you.
thank
Commissioner
you.
Flowers, anything else?
Yes, the last thing I want to say is this isn't a problem that like just popped up overnight. This is a problem that has been growing for years. Housing has just been my thing forever and a day because I grew up in a housing community. I came from a two-parent family. I know how people look at you or the things that they say about you because you grew up in a housing community. Residing in a housing complex was never meant to be permanent. It was supposed to be a place where individuals who needed help and assistance with housing, that's where you can go. You can build up your skill set, increase your level of employment, do all of those things so that it either moves you towards home ownership or you're then able, because you're now financially able, to move out of that housing complex and then the next family that needs help comes in. That's what housing was designed for. Unfortunately, because so many other outside factors that none of us in this room have the ability to change right now, persons have been kind of settled because wages haven't kept up with inflation, the cost of living, and so you may have intended it for it to be a short stop. It ended up being a longer stop than you thought. In the interim, you have more adults coming along that now need that service. And so the availability couldn't keep up with the needs of the community. It's a lot of things that, you know, I'm certainly going to contact my senators, the legislature, because those are things we can't change right now. We need to address that through the legislature and encourage them to change it because it affects people in all of their districts. There's not one place in the state of Florida, or as far as I'm concerned, in this nation right now, that's not dealing with this problem. So it's something that I think should be addressed, whether it's the insurance issue, whether it's the risk management and underwriting, you know, and putting some controls there so that insurance companies can't tell you, well, if you do this, we're going to pull out, you know, whatever. Because some of them may be on assistance. I've learned that a lot of people that work in the government, school board, et cetera, they're receiving support and assistance because they don't make the kind of money that is needed. So, other people want to say things. When we get to that point, I'm going to support what's here today. We've got to start somewhere. We have got to do something because the longer we delay, the more people that come into the system that need, and those numbers are just going to increase and continue to grow. The last thing I want to say is I am so proud of the work that my colleagues did even before I got here with Penny for Pinellas, because we've been able to add another 848 or so affordable units to the table. We have developers who are willing to build affordable. We have Habitat and Ernest Cooney's organization who's willing to, and the Pinellas County Urban League now, who's willing to build affordable and work out things so that it's a non-interest bearing loan. Can you imagine if we had, that kind of partnership or collaboration throughout this county, what we could do for persons? It would just be fabulous. And so we have more coming on board, but we're not going to build as fast as we need to build to accommodate the need. But thank you, each and every one of you that have come here today. I hope that I've shed some clarity in some areas. I'm not sure, but we've got to do something, and I think that this will be the right thing to do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for letting me go on so long.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Long?
I have nothing. I forgot what I was going to ask. Sorry.
Commissioner Seal?
So, I kind of want to be clear about this, and I understand the rent and the income standards, but unless they are a housing authority or they already take vouchers, if I was going to just go rent an apartment somewhere, and I know they can't discriminate based on my income standard, but if the rent's $2,000 and I only have a voucher that is $300, that apartment complex doesn't have to still accept me, correct?
I'm gonna let Evan
Because I was kind of trying to wrap my head around this.
Yeah, you are correct. So we have, I want to say it's,
I mean, this is really going to only impact people, those who do Section 8 housing and those who do accept vouchers
well,
now.
not necessarily. I mean,
Okay.
if HUD does have certain rent levels that they will allow, and we actually have a pretty fine-grained fair market rents by part of the county. So we have several different levels
Right.
depending on what part of the county you're in. So if you're a typical market landlord and you're offering an apartment and it fits within what HUD can pay, then you would accept that as a legitimate applicant. You'd put them through your processes, and you could accept them. So it doesn't have to be somebody who's already pre-registered as Section 8. It could, as long as your rent's falling within that area, that HUD could pay. So, but if you had a
But
higher
basically,
rent,
but if you built affordable housing using HUD dollars, or you received, let's say, penny for Pinellas dollars, then it would apply to those properties.
yes, it would, and it would apply to any property, but as it notes specifically in the ordinance, it does not require any landlord to lower their rent in order to accept a voucher,
Okay.
right? So that voucher has to be falling within a range of rent that you're charging for the unit, for any tenant who shows up or any applicant that shows up.
Okay, I just wanted it clear for the public and for folks to understand that, because this is not a panacea for
Right.
everything that we would probably like to have. And I just, I am concerned, again, that I really would rather be in line with St. Petersburg, just from the applicability and having different municipalities and have to follow different rules. And that's where I'm coming from. But I guess if we can continue to have a dialogue and have an understanding about this, then I will probably be willing to support it. I just want to make sure that we've really thought this through and that there are going to be no unintended consequences that come out of this. So that's what I always worry about. Thank you.
I did remember.
Commissioner Long.
My question is very short. So as I heard. Thank you. Okay. As I heard Jewel say, this does apply countywide except for St. Pete?
Except for any city that has an
Has their
ordinance
own.
that's inconsistent with yours,
Okay.
or any city that may in the future
Got it.
take a
Out.
formal action to opt out.
I got it. So, Barry, are all the city managers in the cities, have we talked to them? Do they know what we're doing today?
Yes, for those that were in attendance at our meeting. And I did not ask for a formal vote. I presented this. The questions really revolved around who's going to enforce it. And we said that through our Consumer Protection Division, we would enforce it. And in fact, what we're seeing with both Tampa and St. Pete is very few complaints. So it hasn't been a problem from a workload standpoint.
Okay, thank you. That's
Commissioner
all.
Eggers.
Well, I started with confusion, and I'm not saying I'm totally cleared up on all this. I appreciated the comments Commissioner Flowers said, and I do think there is an issue that's much more global than what we're talking about today. And I think those are kinds of conversations that we as a county need to have. You know, I remember back in 2005 when we wanted to look at development standards, and we had that countywide conversation about that issue. And I think this issue is that important, that we start to have the conversation with our apartment owners, small apartment owners, because I think there's an abundance of them that, again, those unintended consequences that you talk about scare me, because I worry about the supply chain and exactly what the reaction will be. And I'm not talking about threats, but some people just don't want to deal with all of the paperwork, all of the technical government issues that come up. And it's why it's been a slow process nationwide for this kind of thing to take hold. It's critically important. I'm just really concerned about the unintended consequences, and I'm not really smart enough to know what they are. And I don't really necessarily want to get out ahead of ourselves. So when I think about, somebody made the comment, well, it's silly to compare it to St. Petersburg. Well, they did it, and they kind of stepped out on it, and maybe they're looking at some changes because they're experiencing it. I think we did something with animal rights, not with we do something and we try it out, and maybe changes are needed to make it stronger. We did that with not shutting down all the pet stores as a first step. Now over in Hillsborough County, they did that as a first step, and then they took other steps as they kind of got their arms around this thing. And for me, it is trying to get your arms around this because it is cumbersome. It's as simple as somebody having a roof over their head. That's the simple part. But getting there and all of the complexities and what that means to the industry, small folks that are doing this, and maybe they are going out of their way to be helpful, and large owners that are doing this and going out of their way to be helpful. Because in every industry that we deal with, we have bad actors. So it's not just certain people that we're talking, the apartment industry, we're talking about realtors. We've got some bad actors in that industry. We got bad actors in every industry, but we have some good ones too. And I'm really concerned about getting out ahead. That's why I'm really interested in kind of dovetailing with St. Petersburg and seeing how that conversation proceeds. Bring it back if you guys have a consensus that their experience yields something else. Their experience says what we're considering here today is the right thing to do. Well, then let's do it together. Because I think in addition to this being complex, having different models and it's just going to be over the top complicated. And so those are just some of my thoughts. Like I said, the crawl before we walk and the walk before we run. I think I know that can be a shorter path. It doesn't have to be drawn out, but we do have some complex issues here that I think we need to be careful as we move forward. And I truly am concerned about, I think, the mom and pops, not the big apartment complexes as well, but all of the things that go into. The gentleman said he's got 42 pages versus 4 pages for somebody to look through. I don't remember what it was about. It's like, oh my gosh. So getting people to read a lease, which are painful to begin with. I'm in the lease business and rental business on the commercial side. If you don't have somebody that knows what they're doing, it's just complicated. So there are a lot of people just probably signing leases. So I think there was somebody talked about having assistance someplace that people can go to for help. I know that we have the housing authorities on the one hand, but there may be others as well. So for me, I'm really supportive of moving forward with the St. Pete ordinance and continuing to direct our staff and their staff to kind of come together, because really these 24 cities, these other 23 cities that we're talking about, you're putting the onus on them to look into something this complicated and then deciding to opt out because they have something better. And I think we've got to give them time too. And I think coming online and being in sync with St. Petersburg is a great first step. And we're providing that option for them. And at the end of the day, we don't like people telling us what to do from Tallahassee, and I think we have to be sensitive to that as well. So anyway, those are some of my thoughts.
Thank you. Commissioner Peters.
Yeah, thank you. I needed some clarification on what Barry just said. He said Hillsborough County and St. Petersburg are not having complaints.
No, they're having, and you spoke to it. Is Evan or Carol come up and kind of speak to that? We were looking at the number of complaints and how it's going to impact consumer protections was the workload issue that I asked about. Right. And they said that it hasn't significantly impacted their workload.
Yes, like in particular, when we had dialogue with Hillsborough County, the number of complaints over a year or so was very low, less than 20 complaints.
Okay.
So they had not seen a big increase in workload.
Okay. Well, so that tells me if it was very low, maybe 20 complaints in a very large county, was there a problem they're trying to fix? I mean, I'm just, and everything that you said, this doesn't fix. This doesn't fix the ability for a family to come in for temporary housing and then be able to move up. This doesn't fix the ability for people to afford to live there. our increased inventory of affordable housing does that. But this doesn't really fix that. And I've never in my career ever saw where we added more bureaucratic red tape to something, saw it decrease costs. So if you're looking to decrease costs, adding more bureaucratic red tape doesn't do it. I love that. I would love to have, so much notice if my rent's going up. I get all that. I do. And I like that, my son he only had 10 days notice when he had to get out. But that's because he didn't renew his lease every single year. He just went on a month to month after so many years of living there. So I get there's some things that would be very nice for awareness. And I'm in the rental business too. My business is rentals. So I get it. But everything that you talked about, I don't see a fix in here. And if the demand in Hillsborough County, which is a very large county, was 20, I'm not sure. And I'm not saying I want to be with St. Petersburg just because St. Petersburg's still working on it. And St. Petersburg is still working on it. They don't even have a finished product yet. So how can we say we want to be like what St. Pete has? And I don't know what that is. So I'm not looking to mirror what St. Pete has. I'm not sure I understand this completely, and I felt when it came back before it wasn't finished being baked. I'm not sure I'm there yet. So I'm not sure yet. But what you said, is there going to be impact to consumer protection? It's going to be minimal. How big of a problem is this? Because it's not making it more affordable to rent here. That's not what we're doing. I mean, that's not what this does. It's not increasing the inventory of affordable housing. That's not what this does. So I'm not sure. Everything you said is correct and accurate. And that's where some of the core problem is. People can come here from Seattle and they get lower rent and less taxes, so it's better for them. But the people that live here, that kind of pushes them out. So you're absolutely right. But this doesn't fix that, right? And so the question is, I guess my question is, what are we fixing with this? And I don't know that I've heard that yet. And granted, I wasn't here for the workshop, so I have a disadvantage because I was out of town. But that's just my thoughts on this. So thank you for letting me air my thoughts.
Thank you. Commissioner Gerard.
Well, what this fixes is that people wait years to come up on the voucher list and get a voucher in hand, and there are landlords that can and do refuse to accept vouchers. That's what we're trying to fix. The fact that people have a housing voucher that will pay the full amount of rent, or combined with whatever portion they have to pay, and they can't use it anywhere.
Okay.
And that's a problem. And
Yeah.
something that's been growing for years. Don't answer me, please. So Hillsborough has had their ordinance for a year, and that they've had their ordinance for a year, and they've had 20 complaints since the ordinance, meaning that the ordinance is working.
So if I may follow up?
Commissioner Peters?
I just want to see in this ordinance, does this ordinance, and I missed it, mandate that every apartment building has to take a voucher? We're now mandating that everybody must take it? That's what it's doing.
No, that's what I had clarified.
So
that's the question I asked.
Okay, so there's my question, and I'm going to ask staff to answer this, okay? And I apologize if you thought I was rebutting you, but you said that this fixes that. This fixes that landlords are not accepting vouchers. Evan, where in this ordinance does it fix that apartment landlords are now going to are we mandating that they have to take it? Because if it's fixing that, if it's saying that landlords are saying they're not accepting vouchers, this mandates that they have to accept it?
So it does not mandate that they have to accept vouchers if it affects what they're charging for rent. However, it does say that a voucher is a legal, lawful source of income. So, and it also, and it's important that this is a source of income ordinance, which also applies to other sources of income. And essentially what it does is, it says that a landlord cannot discriminate solely based on your source of income. And so a voucher would be one of those sources of income. There's a list in the definitions of others that could be considered. that you can't just be discriminated solely on that source of income. And that's
Okay.
really what this addresses.
But it doesn't mandate they have to take it. There's a big difference. I mean, there's a difference.
If you have a voucher applicant and you're a landlord, and
Yeah.
that voucher applicant comes to you, and they have a voucher that could pay the rent that you are charging for your
Right.
unit, and they pass your other standards, this does not keep you from doing a criminal background check, this does not keep you from running a credit check, this doesn't keep you from other things that you do to check to make sure a tenant is a good tenant or a good fit. But if they pass all of that and there is an available unit, then yes, you would have to take them, just like you'd have to take any applicant that goes through your process.
Okay. So I guess I'm still confused then. It's not clear. I'm not clear on all of that. Then, does that fix this? Because, so we're saying they have to before they weren't, even though that is discrimination, and we have lots of laws for discrimination already on the books.
Right, correct. So the source of income is not protected as part of the Fair Housing Act. So it does not explicitly say that you can't discriminate. It is not a protected class. So you can legally still discriminate depending on where someone is making their income.
Okay.
So this attempts
helps.
to address that.
Thank you. That helps.
Commissioner Flowers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that clarification, because that's what I was going to try to elaborate on. But just historically, I don't know how many of you may recall, but for a number of years, landlords were literally clamoring to be applicants approved to accept HUD vouchers because it was guaranteed rent. And typically those vouchers paid the amount of rent they were asking for. The amount that the person was responsible for was kind of like in addition. But really, whatever they were renting that unit for, that voucher typically paid for that. When we went to when we went through that phase of that condo conversion thing, y'all remember that, where apartments all along 54th Avenue South in St. Pete, apartments in Kenneth City, some in Largo, Clearwater, in the Greenwood area, those were being rented to persons with vouchers. Then those persons who owned those apartment complexes thought they'd be able to make a little bit more money, so they turned them into condos and went through that condo. The market got saturated, inundated, they couldn't fill up the units, so then they went back to accepting vouchers. So to be someone who accepts HUD Section 8 vouchers in general, there's an application process that you go through, and you say that you're going to accept vouchers. You say that you're going to follow the rules, that you know people are going to come in and inspect those units, that the tenants have these, responsibilities. You have these responsibilities and those things to follow. So, it's just that at one point, vouchers were like the golden ticket from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Everybody wanted them, and now nobody wants them. Why? Because they can charge market rate and not have to go through. And we heard that in some persons coming forward at our last meeting, that they don't have to worry about going through and having those inspections done and all of that stuff. So I just wanted to share that. The other is, I just want to note, I had a virtual meeting with the Community Law Program. One of their board of directors, Attorney Brandon Williams, was on, and then two others were on. They told me they fielded 450, they represented 450 renters. They've been able to settle those. Some, they were able to keep that tenant in their rental. Some, they were able to negotiate and extend the time frame by which they would have to be out to give them more time to try to find somewhere to go. Some, they were able to negotiate on the rent increase and stuff. So I just wanted to give that as a real number over the past year. An organization who does this representation by some grants and some dollars that are donated to their organization, and mostly by attorneys who donate their time, because in order for someone who's renting to try to fight a 3 times the amount rent increase or whatever, they have to be able to pay for the filing fees and the court costs, and they don't have the money to do that. So the Community Law Program has fielded 450. That was the number they gave to me. And they've been able to come to some resolution in a number of areas. So I just wanted to put a number on the face of there is a concern with some of the things that have been presented to us, where not necessarily you guys in the room. I'm believing you to be wonderful landlords because you're here today, you're concerned, you want to have a voice, you want to have a say, and you want to understand what's being asked. But there are some who are not necessarily being nice, I guess is what I want to say. And hopefully, you know, if people were just addressing human need, we wouldn't even be talking about this today. We would just be addressing human need. But unfortunately, in some realms, that's not the case. And so our constituents look to us to try to do something to try to help them. And this is, I guess, this is one of the areas where we can.
Commissioner Eggers. Hey, just a quick question. Again, I think about unintended consequences. You know, in the neighborhood that I live, there's about 4 or 5 homes that were on the market for renting seasonally, but prices have gone up so high that people have said, "I'm selling," and so now they've kind of converted to single-family homes. So, is there anything that we're seeing? I know this is such a transitional phase right now. Is there anything that we're seeing that small apartment owners, large apartment owners start to see that the condo market is hot, and there's just too much else to deal with? So let's see, to the point that was raised, going from apartment to condo. Are we seeing that? And is that a threat that we have to be worried about when we start doing, I don't know, being too onerous, if you will, on the changes that we're proposing?
So specifically, you're saying being too onerous, that it would
just drive people away from
entice people to stop renting and maybe
just
go
get out of the business. I mean, it's high rent, so they're in some cases making good money, but there's also a huge condo demand. So I'm just asking the question of.
I'm not aware of any specific. We are we're grappling with the changes over the last, say, 5 years. We're looking at data. We're trying to understand where we're gaining units, where we're losing units, and all of that. But we don't have a clear picture yet as far as how much of what's going on in the rental market has to do with the conversions.
Yeah.
So I can't speak to that. I don't know if somebody else might be able to speak to that.
And Commissioners, you raised this issue at our strategic planning about, what's happening within the whole marketplace. And that's the housing compact that you've signed on, is to get all the cities working together to try to develop regional strategies. And that is where that kind of plays that.
Mr. Chair, there's
Yes, sir.
somebody raised their hand that could maybe speak to this. Can I?
If you would like.
I just want to hear that. I just hear what he has to say about it.
Again, my name is Sebastian Harris. I'm a real estate professional. I work with the investment sale of apartment communities throughout Pinellas County. I can tell you that the capitalized value of many of these communities would be greater than the total of what you could sell them for as individual condos, which has a pretty big upfront expense in converting one parcel to multiple parcels. Many of these investors are much better off selling them to a new investor that wants to come in and assume any additional or perceived burden. We have billions and billions of dollars of out-of-state capital coming into our state and our region right now, specifically to invest in multifamily communities. These returns and margins are incredibly, incredibly thin. When you add in the loan and debt on top of that, they become reduced even further, especially now with increasing costs and interest rates. Many of these people coming in are taking these properties from people who were not taking care of them effectively and not providing safe, clean housing, and spending significant amounts of money to improve these properties, which oftentimes does result in an increased rental amount.
So you see more of the just changing ownerships rather than changing rentals to condo. That's
at this time and in our area, to the best of my knowledge, there is more value to an owner in selling the entire complex to a new investor than there would be if they were to sell the units off individually as condominiums.
Okay, so I got you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
An example of that is Sable Palms. I don't know if you all recall last year, it was a big thing because a huge apartment complex on 54th Ave South, which is Sable Palms, over 600 units, was sold to a private investor, and they stated it was because of their close proximity to the beaches, which was Q4. This is not going to remain affordable. Those units are not going to remain affordable. So,
All right, commissioners, further questions, or what do you want to do?
Move approval.
second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Gerard, a second from Commissioner Flowers. Further discussion? The clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote.
I can't get on.
Uh-oh. I gotta join again, sorry.
I thought I had joined. Are we up? Are you up? Hold on. Guess I hadn't joined.
The only comment I was also gonna make is, you talked about the housing
Hang on one
compact
second.
group.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, hang on. It passes 5-2. Commissioner Seal?
You talked about the housing compact group. Why didn't this go to them?
Right.
Well, they're just now organized, and it was really our ordinance, and we were trying to be responsive to this.
Okay, it just seemed like that's a logical place if that's what we created it for, to have some consensus amongst the cities, then.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Flowers?
I would just ask that if we could get maybe an update on how this looks 6 months, do a 6-month review. If we can get a kind of a report or feedback on, how many concerns, complaints, what was the outcome of it or whatnot, so we could just kind of track it and see where it goes. And I would also ask for staff to, which I'm sure they're going to do, if they could please stay on top of the ordinance that's going before Hillsborough County. I think it's today at their meeting, and then St. Pete to kind of see where those are as well, just so we can, stay apprised of, how the environment is looking. And I would love for us to, Mr. Chair, at some point have further discussion and dialogue as to whether or not we want to tackle it on the insurance side, if it's something that we can do through, if that's an appetite, if we have an appetite for that. Because if there's no check there, then that's going to continue to be a concern, an issue with landlords. So,
All right.
please, sir.
Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, and I guess on some of the same issues. Do we have the people in place to help our cities that are going to be calling us about the details of this? I'm assuming.
Well, actually, it'll just be a referral to consumer protection, and we'll handle.
No, I'm talking about the idea of opting out and creating their own. Who do they talk to? They're going to be
Carol.
Okay, so get ready, because those folks are going to want to know some of these details.
And to that end, and we've done this on other issues that impact the cities, is we have been proactive, possibly under the chairman's signature, and send out a letter saying, this is what we passed. You can we'd love for you to join, but here are your resources. You can opt out, or you can stay in, and then our consumer protection will help you with this. Just outlining it. Very clear-cut letter is sent to everybody.
We do, and remember, this is not effective to what, October? And so this gives us time to do the outreach, but.
All right, commissioners, we have completed items 1 and 2 on the agenda. Sounds like we need a break. We'll come back at 12:30.
Do you have citizens to be heard? My goodness. Are there any citizens to be heard?
4 or 5.
Oh, okay.
We'll come back at 12:30. Into item number 3, citizens to be heard. Appreciate your patience. Alex Thompson. Mr. Thompson, are you still with us? Alex Thompson? All right, I apologize. David Ballard Geddes Jr. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioner. David Ballard Geddes Jr. I live on Georgia Avenue in Palm Harbor. In effect, excuse me. In effect, the preamble of this Constitution states, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish this Constitution to secure the blessings of our liberty for ourselves and to promote our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." Two separate constitutions, one requisite of the other, as qualified in Article 1, Section 2. Article 6 of this Constitution, in pursuance thereof, engages the adoption of this Constitution as valid under this Constitution, as under this Constitution, as under the Confederation. The Confederation being described not as North and South, but as being that of land and water in Federalist Paper number 12. The Federalist Paper labels these 3 separate constitutions as the former, the latter, and the last resort, revealing this Constitution and this Constitution as being a bill of attainder, as being a letter of marque, seen as a long train of usurpations in the Declaration of Independence. Truthfully, such high seas hypocrisy is in reality, is in actuality, not a constitution at all, but a playground for adjunct political fraud and delinquency. Political piracy is what this is, attempting to substantiate itself and its posterity contrived through the immaterial use of a pronoun, it, being used in the 14th Amendment as a direct object in an attempt to give rise to water jurisdictions, birthing itself as a ship of war, attempting to invoke maritime law, declaring themselves to be gods in the Declaration of Independence, labeling themselves as nature's gods, invoking such play of prejudice and pride against Almighty God Himself, using water as its weapon of choice. Thank you.
Greg Pound?
Excuse me.
Greg Pound, Largo. They said on the news yesterday that we've entered into a recession as a country. It's going to be the worst one in 40 years. And I have a verse here, Hebrews chapter 12, verse 29. It says, "For our God is a consuming fire." And Xi Jinping said to Biden yesterday in his 2-hour phone conversation with him, he said, "Those who play with fire perish by it," talking to the United States if they mess with Taiwan and what's going on over there. So what we have now is we have a situation where our corruption is so bad in our country that if you want to just go see it, go watch this, just Google this news report. Joe Biden just proved he's compromised. Google that and just watch it, and that'll show you the truth. You know, it's so important to live by truth. Once we, you know, it's so hard to get the truth today, whether it's in court, whether it's in anything. You can't even, you got to really dig for it. And it's just it's out of control. So what we're dealing with now is we're in a county where this is where we live. We're supposed to manage our county. I can't change with all the other stuff going on. But in Pinellas County, when we have massive corruption, when we have illegal county commissioners, we have Jim Coates' lawyer, now our sheriff, and he's still an attorney running his business and so forth. Do any of you folks know it's illegal according to our Constitution? It's illegal for a lawyer, attorney to be the sheriff of Pinellas County? I mean, do you guys know that? I mean, if you know that, why is this going on? I mean, how can he go up to Tallahassee and say, I'm not only the sheriff of Pinellas County, but I'm also an attorney? I mean, and he says this, and you guys just, it shows the ignorance. If we've gotten so ignorant, so stuck on stupid as a people, or so gutless that you guys won't even stand up for the truth. The Bible says, buy the truth and don't sell it. And once we have people who compromise, you shouldn't be in office. You should be selling, you should do something else to get your money, but not representing the United States and the people that built this country and people that are trying to stay here. I mean, people flee to this country for the freedom and liberties we have, but it's being destroyed. We're becoming a banana republic. It's getting so corrupt, it's just out of control. So, you know, if the people of Pinellas County don't change it, I know you guys, you know, a psychopath is a person who has no conscience. It's obvious to me you guys lost your conscience a long time ago because you guys, I know you know what's going on. You've up there in Tallahassee. You see all the stuff's going on. You watch that interview that I suggested. You'll see Matt Gaetz. I've spent a lot of time talking to Matt Gaetz. Went up in there in Tallahassee all the time I've been up there. And what happens is this is what we're dealing with. He'll show you the FBI, CIA, all these people are corrupt. And they're the head of our intelligence. So, and it's the same here. You guys are no better than them. You're just doing the same thing. You're destroying the country.
Mac Johnson.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mack.
What a joy it is again to be able to stand and just say a few words about this great county and all these wonderful people that I'm privileged to be around every day. Man, this morning I was getting out of bed there, and I felt a different kind of a pain or something. And it's like, what is this? Where is this coming from? You know, I mean, some of us can kind of relate to, I guess, getting a little older. Different things kind of happen sometimes. And this morning, I had that little, like I couldn't breathe right. I still kind of got a little bit of that right now. And man, I said, well, I'm going to go to the commissioner's meeting today, and I want to say something. And when I say something, I like to say something kind of encouraging, right? And so it was like I said, Lord, what am I going to say? my breathing is going away where I've never seen it before. And so it's like the Lord said, well, maybe you might say, this might be my last word, okay? And what's wrong with that? It might be. As I thought about it, because it's like the way life is for our country today, all these diseases and COVID and all is going around, and people are here today, and they're gone tomorrow. So I could be here today talking to us, and I can walk outside the building, and man, you guys will say, that guy said some words to us this morning, or this afternoon, and he's dead already. So my question to us is, what would I want to be remembered as saying my last words? You know, as I thought about that, I thought about Jesus' last word before he went back to heaven. He said, I want you guys and girls that love me to go into all the world and preach the gospel. Excuse me. And that's his last command. So my last word would be, I want you guys to remember Mac Johnson's saying, you know, the only way that a man can be right with God is through Jesus Christ. If you got Christ, you got life. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Alex Thompson. Good afternoon.
Hello, I'm Alex Thompson. I'm here on behalf of my mom, who's 74. She lives in Palm Harbor. You all are redoing sidewalks up there, and as a result, her new irrigation system was badly damaged and ripped out. All the county people that were working there were very apologetic and respectful, excuse me, and said they were sorry, but the county policy is to cut and cap. So this is the second irrigation system she's put in. She still works 2 days a week. She's financed this, and she's very upset. And so I was told, after speaking to different people, that I would have to come and speak to you all about this. So I don't know if there's any recourse for us, what can be done.
Let me ask the administrator to weigh in.
So we do cut and cap because you probably put those out into our right of way. But I'm going to have you give the address over just to Jill right here, and then we'll follow up with you directly.
Okay, that would be great. It's the second system she's put in, and the yard is her hobby, and she's really upset, so I would appreciate any help we can get with that. And we're glad you're fixing it up. You guys are about to redo the streets. Everything's great, except for this.
All right, Ms. Silverboard will talk with you, and hopefully we'll come to some
All right.
resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. All right, that's all I have for citizens to be heard. Next on the agenda is a consent agenda, items 4 through 7. Anything to be pulled or a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Egger, second by Commissioner Long. We'll do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Show it passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 8. Mr. Administrator, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Item number 8 is a funding agreement with Gulf Coast Legal Services for legal aid services. This is a longstanding agreement and is paid for both by court fees and the general fund.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Peters, second by Commissioner Flowers. Further discussion? Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote. Passes unanimously. Item number 9.
It's an annual certificate of Lellman Solid Waste Collection and Disposal, non-ad valorem assessment roll, and it stays at $16 a month.
Move approval. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Long, second by Commissioner Gerard. Further comments? Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote.
Disappeared. I'm a yes.
Passes unanimously. Item number 10.
This is an agreement with Conde Holdings. This is for a proprietary corrosion control chemical blend that is used by utilities. You can see the significant cost increase. That's the reason it's only a 2-year agreement with optional 1-year renewals.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Peters, second by Commissioner Flowers. Further discussion? Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote. Passes unanimously. Item number 11.
This is an agreement with Nalco. It's a purchase of a copper removal agent. This is a 5-year contract. You can see the terms outlined in the agreement.
Move approval.
Motion by Commissioner Gerard, second by Commissioner Peters. Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote. Passes unanimously. Item number 12.
Item number 12 and item number 13 are related to the utility work by the Florida Department of Transportation. This is at the State Road 580 on Highway 19 from 580 to Northside Drive. So you had previously approved the agreements. These are the actual bids once the bids come in, and so it requires modification to the agreement with FDOT.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Long, second by Commissioner Peters. Commissioner Eggers.
And I'm sorry, I didn't look in here. Was this penny funded? Is this,
Utilities.
or is utility funded?
This is out of utilities funds? Yeah,
Okay, so
because
the additional.
it's our utilities in there right away. Obviously, when they do the work, we have to move it.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote. Passes unanimously. Item 13.
Same thing.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Peters, second by Commissioner Gerard.
Can I just make a comment?
Commissioner Seal.
I guess I just find it interesting because there, I just read in the Tampa Bay Times about FDOT and how proud they were that basically things hadn't been delayed too much or cost increases, and this is a 30% increase, so I just had to say that for the record.
Yes.
It certainly didn't not affect their governmental partners and the citizens.
Further discussion? Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote. Passes unanimously. Item 14.
This is the purchase of Acela licensing and maintenance services for this technology. It's a new purchase agreement, 7-year term. It's outlined, the costs are outlined within the write-up below. It's got a variety of different costs that are associated with it. And if you recall, Acela has been being implemented over the last several years.
Mhm.
Now that term is up, we have to have a maintenance contract to make it for it going forward.
All right.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Peters, second by Commissioner Flowers. Questions? We have Mr. Zumwalt here. All right. Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote. Passes unanimously.
They gave a good presentation.
Item 15.
Item number 15 are reappointments to the Emergency Medical Services Advisory Committee, and they're outlined in your packet.
Move approval. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gerard, second by Commissioner Peters. Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote. We missed him. There we go. Passes unanimously. Item 16.
These are appointments to the Emergency Medical Services Medical Control Board, and you have 2 reappointments and 1 appointment.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Peters, second by Commissioner Flowers. Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote. Passes unanimously. Item 17.
This is an amendment number 1 to the Fire Protection Services Agreement between Lowman Special Fire District and Pinellas County for the replacement of fire apparatus serving the Tierra Verde Fire District, $1.3 million.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Peters, second by Commissioner Long. Chief, Commissioner Flowers would like a ride in the 61-foot Skyboom aerial apparatus when you get it.
You're all welcome.
Further discussion? Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote.
Just make sure I'm tied
Passes
in.
unanimously. Thank you. Item 18, County Attorney.
Under item number 18, I'm asking you to ratify authorization previously provided in litigation to be filed against the parties referenced in the agenda item.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Peters, second by Commissioner Long. Further discussion? Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote. Passes 6-1. Item 19.
Under item number 19, this is a request that you routinely receive from the tax collector for the board to take action extending the tax rolls so that he may mail out the tax bills prior to the conclusion of Value Adjustment Board proceedings.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Long, second by Commissioner Peters. Further discussion? Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote. Passes unanimously. Any reports?
Not today.
Thank you very much. Item 21, County Administrator Report.
Yes, under or passed out on your table is a list of the maximum millages. As you know, we need to set the maximum millages ahead of when you'll actually have your budget hearings here in September. So we've provided a list of the maximum millages. Obviously, some of those are higher than what is proposed, so if you want to make adjustments during the budget process, you can. This only reflects the maximum amount, not what you'll actually pass. And with your concurrence, I'll be posting these following this meeting.
All right, questions, discussion, or motion?
So, question.
Commissioner Eggers.
So, in your budget, you've proposed what millage?
I proposed, it's 4, I actually have it, hang on.
4.7.
Yeah, 4.73 398. This provides 4.9136, and that way, if you choose to make adjustments in the budget, you can. And if not, you can keep it at the 4.7 or lower. But if you set it if we set it at 4.7 today before you've had the hearings, you cannot adjust it higher.
And have we had asked some questions about funding options for some of the road work that we're talking about versus putting it into an additional millage?
Mm-hmm.
And when would we be seeing that?
We'll have those discussions at the hearing on the budget. This is just simply setting the maximum millages. It's a two-step process. Why? I can't answer that. But we have to set these ahead of when you actually have your hearings on the budget.
So I'd like
Commissioner
to
Long.
move approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Long, second by Commissioner Flowers. Further discussion? All right, clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote. Passes 6-1.
Nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. Item 22, County Commission new business. We have one Skyway lighting request for breast cancer awareness. If someone would make a motion.
Move approval.
Motion by Commissioner Gerard, second by Commissioner Flowers. Clerk will open the board. Commissioners will proceed to vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Commissioners, anything new business for Commissioner Long?
Yes, I would like to ask my colleagues to keep in your prayers and thoughts the family of Clarence Hayward Hartman, who passed away last Friday. Hayward was a very distinguished council member when I was first elected to the Seminole City Council, which seems like a lifetime ago. And he's been very active in the community and well-respected family in the Seminole area. And secondly, I'm going to be sending you, after this meeting today, a resolution which I would appreciate, Mr. Chair and Mr. Administrator, if we could get on our agenda for consideration by the rest of the commission before the policy conference in Miami in September to be taken up by the Florida Association of Counties. And it deals with preserving counties' access to the courts to protect taxpayers from climate-related adaptation cost. And so I'd like us to be able to consider that and move it through the policy conference at FAC.
All right, we'll look forward to seeing that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Commissioner Flowers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just two things. The first is at PSTA, we maintain the millage rate that PSTA has had for some time. And so that's 0.75 mils, and it increases the revenue by about $360,000. But we know we'll be able to spend those dollars because we are awaiting our electric buses. So we know that that's where that's going to go. So we appreciate all of the help and support there. And then just to reiterate what I said in our workshop, that with Career Source, DEO is contemplating a new direction as it relates to how Career Source organizations will be governed, whether or not it will be from a regional perspective or remain from a county perspective. I prefer the county perspective because what works or what the needs are here in Pinellas aren't necessarily what works and what the needs are in Hillsborough, Pasco, Polk, et cetera. But we will see what happens with that decision, and then, of course, we will move accordingly. Why does that matter? Because we are in the process of trying to hire a new executive director and not knowing the future of Career Source and where we will be. That would probably hinder the number of applicants that we would receive because there's no sure guarantee that we would not be absorbed into a region where Career Source Pinellas would not be the lead, if you will. So Mr. Meir, who is serving as an interim and doing a very good job, morale is up. Employee surveys that have been given shows that they feel valued. We're instituting partnerships and expanding partnerships with organizations to make sure that individuals have employment opportunities that provide them with living wages. So all of those things that we should be doing and focused on, we're doing. And I am very pleased with Mr. Meir's actions and his ability to lead the staff there through our tumultuous times. So that is all that. Oh, and it's a number of backpack giveaways, school supply giveaways. So it's several. So if you have a chance, please go volunteer at least one of them. You know, even if you're just handing out, backpacks, getting a chance to meet some of the community and seeing our younger constituents, some of the kids that come in to support that. But if you look on my page, and I believe I've seen on the Pinellas County Education Foundation's pages, the Pinellas County School Board pages, there are a number of activities. So if you feel so inclined, please participate. Help people out. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Long.
Yes, I apologize. I forgot to ask this question of my colleagues who serve on the PSTA board, because I haven't been there this year. But it is my understanding the Federal Transit Authority has notified PSTA today that they may be able to get an additional, I think it's 15 million, something like that, from the feds, if they can have a local match, and it's for the transit center here in Clearwater, downtown Clearwater, which you all know PSTA has worked really, really hard on. I know Barry has had conversations with Brad and Whit over the last couple of weeks, but my concern is that with all of the new electric buses, Commissioner Flowers, that you just spoke to, they are not going to be able to service downtown Clearwater with those new buses because they can't get them into the transit center.
Yeah, we can.
So that transit center needs to be redone, rebuilt, or whatever you want to call it. And I do think that it's important that we try to have at least dialogue on how to come up with this local match money if, in fact, we're able to get that much more from the feds.
How much match money is it?
Okay, just give me 2 seconds and I will tell you.
Yeah, because
They just got a note from the FTA this morning that they may be able to give us 15 million if we can match with local funds.
I haven't gotten
15 million match 1-to-1?
I don't know the
Oh, okay.
details. That's why I'm asking you, those of you who sit on PSTA, can you follow up? and
Sure,
make
there's
sure-
4 of us who sit on there, and we didn't. I just turned to her and I said,
would
"Did
be
you
glad
hear
to
anything?"
follow
And
up on that, yes.
neither one of us.
Well, that's why I'm asking if you can please follow up, because
Follow up on that.
it's important that we help take advantage of those federal dollars if we can.
All right.
That's all I'm saying. Here you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else for the good of the order?
Just real quick.
Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, just real quickly, just following up on the conversation we had earlier, I think we should be thinking about Barry bringing maybe to a future workshop some conversation about kind of the housing issues that we have in the county, and maybe a community approach to, trying to solve, or at least trying to be as creative as possible to address some of the problems that we have. So I'd just like to maybe see that kind of percolate here and have some conversation on it. The second thing, the only other thing I had in the spirit of prayers for a family that the McCormick family who lost their, well, I know the grandparents who lost their 11-month-old grandchild this 2 weekends ago, just suddenly at night. And there was a very moving funeral on Sunday, but really talked to caring for kids, and just a beautiful family. But there's just an awful lot. And Mac Johnson talked about life being short and being positive and upbeat and being kind to others and all of that. Just want to keep that family in your prayers. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else for the good of the order? I read just as before coming back from break, if you're one of my very dear, personal, close friends that shops at the Winn-Dixie at 1360 Tampa Road, please check your Mega Millions tickets and see me afterwards. All right. Anything else?
Really?
We are adjourned.